All right, John Schaefer and Sammy Long hanging out for the next hour. I'll be with you until 6 p.m. today. We continue on San Diego Sports 760. By the way, today on the show, Sammy, we have Aztec tickets to give away. We'll do that February 3rd. I'm never good. Whenever we switch from one month to the next, I'm like, well, what day of the week is that? Because I never know how many days are in a month. Are you a know how many days are in a month guy?
Absolutely not. I'm with you.
Hey, how does anyone know that? I was like, oh, it's 31 in
February's
January.
easy though.
February's 28,
Yeah,
but
28.
But every 4 years is 29. Now I do feel like people hype that up when it's coming.
Is that? Listen, I did go to San Diego State. What is
that
leap year? Leap year? Is that what that is?
That's a leap year. I don't think it's anything to do with San Diego State, whether you know that or not. So, well, we're not in a leap year though, or are we?
Is that why it goes to 29 days though?
Does
anyone know?
The guy once whose birthday was on leap year. It was weird because like technically he's in reality he was like 60 something, but technically he was only like 25.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of.
wow.
I would never want to have been born on February 29th. Like that. That to me is very odd. Because you're only gonna see it every 4 years your entire life. Anyway, the point is we have Aztec tickets to give away for February 3rd. So I go to my calendar. That's a Tuesday night. So that's a week from tonight, February 3rd. So we'll give those away. In addition, we have some tickets to see the San Diego Seals. So we'll do that as well here today. Miles Bird, Aztec guard, coming off maybe the game of his career, truthfully. 23 points, 5 of 5 from beyond the arc. He will join us coming up at 3:30. Do we have, Brian, I want to start with what Kevin Acee said yesterday. I don't know if you heard Kevin Acee with me yesterday, Sammy. But here is a piece of that. And it doesn't have to do with you, Darvish. We talked about that yesterday. And it doesn't have to do with the Padres exploring a sale. It has to do more specifically with AJ Preller and his future. Remember, he's only under contract through 2026. This was Kevin Acee with the latest on Preller.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know I have some idea of where these talks are at. A little bit of an impasse. There's a lot going on with the team. AJ Preller is a commodity that has some, he's got some negotiating power, and I don't think he's just going to take anything from the Padres. So maybe it's a little more. I know this. It's a little bit more difficult than they anticipated getting it done, but that doesn't mean it won't get done. My understanding is that they expect it to. Now, hey, like I said, AJ Preller, man, for whatever, there's not a lot of guys who've done what he's done, and there are people in the league that are like, this guy could, give this guy some resources and watch him go. And so there is a little leverage there for AJ Preller.
So we've talked about this, obviously, for the last couple of weeks. And now Kevin Acee's kind of going down that path as well, which is like, well, Preller's got the leverage. There's, using his words, a little bit of an impasse. Again, it's like you start putting 2 and 2 together. They expect it to get done. They expect it to get done. Well, We've been saying that for 3 or 4 months. I mean, this to me is as significant as getting money back on you, Darvish. I mean, the potential ownership sale is probably bigger than this, but people want to know what's going to happen on field with the Padres, and the person controlling that, by and large, is AJ Preller. If you don't have Preller, that's going to represent a seismic shift. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to have Preller, but again, he hasn't signed this contract, so it's kind of curious, if nothing else.
I'm also curious how much of a thing this is for potential free agents. Like, are people? Are players and agents? You think it would be on their mind, because just like with Craig Stammen becoming the manager, AJ Preller's guy, obviously the lockout potentially next year, so that kind of looms over everything. The sale of the team, it's just, we keep talking about it. It's one more question. One more question is, well, wait, if AJ Preller wants me, maybe the next guy doesn't want me. So now, if you're signing a long-term contract, maybe there's no outs in that. We'll see. But everything that has shown from the Padres, every deal that has been done the last 2 years, whether it's Pivetta or King, feels like it's an incentive-laden deal, or it's very, the Michael King contract is 3 years, $75 million, really a collection of 3 one-year deals. So I just wonder how much this is hanging over potential signings, and they certainly need to add to the starting pitching staff. Maybe it doesn't. It just feels like, the sale of the team's going to come up. The amount of money. Like, there's a lot of questions with this team. Why is this another one that could easily get done? To Kevin Acee's point, what we've been talking about, it must be that, Preller's sitting there going, well, we're going to wait. I'm going to wait and see because I don't know if I want to be locked to this for the future. So it is kind of weird when you hear, well, it's probably going to get done or expected. It's like we've been expecting for 3-4 months now.
Here's what I would say from the Padres' perspective. Like, how badly do you want AJ Preller to remain as your general manager? Because my guess is there's an avenue to get it done. It's kind of like he's, maybe they've provided him with an offer or two and they haven't been good enough. So how much deeper are you willing to go if you're the San Diego Padres in an effort to get this done? I mean, it's as simple as this. It's like anything in life. There are pros and there are cons. And to me, it's like break out a Google spreadsheet or like take out a piece of paper.
Yeah.
If you're ownership, you're like, here are the things that are advantageous for this ownership group with Preller at the helm. Here are the things where we feel as if we could potentially improve without him or where he could improve. Weigh the pros against the cons. If the pros heavily outweigh the cons, then what are we doing? And you don't want to lose this general manager because, well, he wanted 3 years and we offered 2. Or, we were willing to go to this dollar amount. He wanted us to go $1 million more. I'm like, you're in big boy sports. Your payroll each year is over $200 million. You don't want to lose your GM over $1 million in salary. Again, that's life-changing for normal people, but you get the point. And then you don't want to lose your GM because he wants to be under control through 2029 and you're offering through 2028. Like, worry about down the road. You could sign him to a deal through 2029. If it doesn't work out after 2027,
right.
This is professional sports. Then you cut ties and you live with the consequences. So for me, it's like, hey, show me your best offer, Padres. I feel like with their best offer, they would get this done, but maybe they haven't yet shown their best
This
offer.
is a total shot in the dark. Do you think that because he traded away the entire farm system at the deadline, and you can debate whether that was a good move or a bad move, Preller has a lot of leverage because you made this point yesterday. If they were like, he kind of went AWOL, went crazy there and,
right.
and traded everyone and we didn't approve that, he would have been clipped the second they lost to the Cubs in game 3. Like the second that game ended, he would have been gone. Yeah. You feel like Preller kind of knows like, well, wait, I traded the entire farm system and I'm still here and I'm still making decisions. So like, right, what incentive do I have? Like, who are they going to turn to? They're not spending money. So they're not going to go out and get some high profile GM, especially before a potential lockout is coming. They showed you with their manager hire that they're not, and no disrespect to Craig Stammen, he may be a great manager, but that wasn't some high price ticket managerial hire. It does feel like AJ Preller has all the cards in his hands. Like, yeah, I'm going to wait and see on you guys as well.
If he were to walk out the door, for example, to your point, if they didn't retain him or if he left after 2026, do I think it's a good job? I do, just like I think it is right now with Preller at the helm. I don't think it's the best job. And here's the reason I would say it, is that whomever walks in next is still dealing with the same financial constraints that this ownership group or this organization is in. It's not solely because of ownership. It's not solely because of Preller, but it is, cliche. It is what it is. Like Machado's contract is immovable, which is fine. Fernando Tatis Jr., I don't want to move Tatis. And Merrill, you want here. Bogarts, we could certainly argue. I mean, it is what it is, again, to use that point. But it's not like all of a sudden you bring in a new GM, they're like, oh, you're going to see wholesale change, and Manny Machado's gone, and Fernando Tatis Jr. is gone, and trust me on the new vision for the Padres. It's like you're already down a path. You're far down a path, and you're going to see this thing through, whether it's AJ Preller, the pipe dream Theo Epstein type. I mean, there's only so much change you can make in the short term. So I just feel like they're so heavily vested with AJ Preller. Like, why would you go elsewhere right now?
I'm curious what you think about this, or is this kind of a non-factor? Do you think the fact that he traded so much and they gave him so much power at the deadline, it's almost, if you're the Padres, it's a bad look to let him hang around for the entire offseason and then blow him out of town?
I mean, he can't be. I mean, you're saying right now,
right? Like if let's just say maybe not
didn't come to terms.
Yeah, maybe not blow him out of town, but you can't come to terms. Does it show a lack of control of the franchise in that you allowed him all this power, allowed him a full offseason of moves, we're almost to spring training here, and then you can't come to terms? Like, that looks bad. That's a bad reflection of the franchise.
I completely agree with that. It's right now when you think about where this organization is, and it's hard because we don't really have a good feel for John Seidler, who was thrust into this role following the passing of his brother Peter, and will likely not be representing ownership in the future because they're selling the team or at least exploring it. So you have this man in a moment of time whose background is not professional sports, who never dreamed of owning a professional baseball team, and he's overseeing it. So I'm not going to be on the air every day and just completely ridicule John Seidler. But I will say, once you get to this public of a spot and you're in to your point, it's like we're running a professional sports team right now. It's not a hobby. You need to be decisive.
Yeah. No,
you
totally.
need to be decisive in your actions. If you think you have a better option, to your point, you should have made a move October 3rd. You don't see out the string in professional sports. It's a bad path. When you have a decision to make, you make it. And dollars be damned. Sometimes he has 1 year on his deal. If you really think you can do better, he should have been gone October 3rd. If you don't, then you should do everything in your power to extend him. There's no middle ground. And the fact that we've sat here for 90 days in this middle ground is the part that remains inexplicable.
Well, in the NFL, they call it Black Monday for a reason.
They're not waiting till Wednesday.
Right. They're like, you're done. Pack your bags. Thank you for everything you've done. We're getting someone else in the building. So for the free agency and the draft process and all the signings, you have a your new person's vision is there. I think the fact that this has just gone on so long, it's like Preller's like, okay. Well, first off, if we don't come to terms,
I'm probably the winner because then I re-sign with you as a free agent. Maybe I go elsewhere.
In per what Kevin Acey told you yesterday, it doesn't sound like AJ Preller is going to have a list of suitors, and regardless of where that might be, maybe what kind of franchise would be wanting him. But it does feel like mismanagement, and maybe this is because they were exploring a sale and we didn't know that for a while. Maybe their mind wasn't on the team. It's just it's not a great look in the fact that, again, another question going into spring training, and we heard Eric Grupner. Marty asked a very valid question. I'm not coming at Eric Grupner, but it's like they're kind of short answers when they get asked about this. It's like, well, if you signed him, if you came to terms, you wouldn't be asked about this. So it's a very valid question of why your GM is not under contract when the season is literally right around the corner. I mean, that's what professional sports team franchise would do that.
Yeah, it's very odd. I think you bring up a good point, which is like if it was a higher profile franchise in sports. And I think that this team certainly draws headlines in San Diego.
Definitely.
And, it's going to draw with the best of them. And there'll be a capacity by and large for 81 games to their credit. So they don't have issues there. But like to your point, if this was playing out in Los Angeles with like a lame duck general manager or in New York, it would draw way more headlines, in my opinion, than it has here, where it's just been like simmering on a back burner. And it's almost like if you don't pay attention, you just think it's going to go away. But in fact, like the house is on fire. You don't leave the back burner on, even if it's simmering, because that can lead to 100%.
The Dodgers would not let Andrew Friedman sit there for 3 months and go, oh, by the way, you're not coming back as GM and president of baseball ops.
Exactly. And not only would they not do that, they would also offer him, he would have signed an extension. If there was a reason they didn't want him, which doesn't make sense in today's world, but if there was a reason they didn't want him, they would move on from him. And if they did want him, they would acquiesce to whatever contract demands basically he has. Now he's a 2-time, 3-time champion general manager in LA, 2.5, whatever you want to say. It's a different conversation. But again, is it that different of a conversation? If you either want him or you don't. And if you want him, then extend his contract. All right. Will we see a potential homecoming in San Diego? We'll stick with the Padres on the other side. A player that could potentially be on the move. Is San Diego a fit or not? Plus, we'll get to the NFL, and Mike McCarthy introduced a head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers today. Would he actually, in fact, want Aaron Rodgers back? He speaks on that publicly. You'll hear from Mike McCarthy coming up later this hour. We're underway. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John Schaefer and Sammy Long hanging out here until the top of the hour. I'll be with you until 6 p.m. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away. Miles Bird back in the show at 3:30, coming off maybe a career effort in that win over UNLV. Aztecs getting ready for Colorado State. We have some tickets to give away for a game next week against Wyoming. Miles Bird will join us coming up at 3:30. Bill Belichick's a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? We'll get into that in 10 minutes. He's a lock to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Why?
Of course.
Discuss it. C.J. Abrams was part of the Juan Soto trade, right? Part of a package of parts that went off to Washington. And now Jim Bowden today, the three-time baseball general manager who writes at The Athletic and has worked on like MLB Network Radio, he writes today at The Athletic that the Padres are a solid trade partner for the Washington Nationals regarding C.J. Abrams. Now, the Giants have already made a run at Abrams apparently and remain in the running. And then he writes, other potential trade partners include the Red Sox, Yankees, Padres, and Mariners. Two things. Does it even make any sense? You have a shortstop with Xander Bogaerts who's immovable. Now,
play him at first.
You could play Bogaerts at first, although I think if there's any position that would be like, you already don't hit for power. The last place I really want to put you is at a corner. But then again, it is what it is. You're already in the lineup. So there's nothing you can do there. Now, Bogaerts has played second 2 years ago. They moved him to second, then they moved him back to short. I mean, Abrams is a good young player. 3.4 WAR last year, 748 OPS, 25 years old. He's coveted. There's 4 or 5 teams in. I just saw a list today at ESPN. Was it Keith Law's top 100 prospects? Padres have 0 on that list. So Ethan Salas isn't even on that list. So I don't even know if you can get it done. So I'm not sure how realistic it is. And then secondly, like, is it a fit? You traded him away, and a couple of years later, you bring him back, but you got this veteran shortstop in Xander Bogaerts. Doesn't make sense.
Well, I think ideally, again, to your point, you take aside the fact the Padres don't have a farm system really to trade for him and all that, the logistics of getting it done. But if C.J. Abrams was back, Abrams, Merrill, and Tatis, that's a fun little young three that you can really sell to the fans of, hey, and then if we're looking glass half full, maybe one of these days, Machado with a 209 career postseason batting average can come through in the clutch. Bogaerts, to be fair to Bogaerts, although he's
2 rings.
He's 2 rings, and there was at times last year, then I believe it was July and August, where he actually was playing decent baseball and not up to his contract. Certainly, I'm not saying that, but I mean, that would be an interesting little trio there, and then you could kind of hope that the veterans could supplement them. So theoretically, it's great. I wouldn't rip them for. I know some people would blast them for, well, you traded him away, and now you're trading more stuff to get him back.
Right.
I don't subscribe to that as much. I think if you think Abrams is going to be a star for the future, I think just go get him back. But it'd be interesting. I would love to see it, but again, how are you going to get it done? If all those teams, the Red Sox, Mariners, Giants, I forget the other team you named,
Yankees maybe.
The Yankees. Yeah. I mean, these are all stocked farm systems. So who are you trading away? I don't think they're doing it for Jake Cronenworth and a prospect.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's one thing. It's always like when someone says like, I'd like to have C.J. Abrams. I'd like to lift more. I'd like to lose 10 pounds. I'd like to make $50,000 more in salary. Yeah, but how are you going to do it? What's the mechanism? Everyone on January 1st is like, this is what I want to do.
Joining the gym.
Yeah, only 8%. That's what follow through. And that makes sense. You know what I mean? 8% of people will go to the gym and they will later run the half marathon that they already wanted to run. And then the other 92% are like that Apple ad where like the bar chair is following the runner down the block. Because everyone, like, all of a sudden it's like January 30th and you live in the Northeast and it's cold. You're like, forget about the gym. I'm going to pick up a 6-pack on the way home. Or I'm gonna, forget about the healthy meal. I'm going to just eat the TV dinner. So it's like, what is the mechanism to bring C.J. Abrams back is a really good point. This is a very good young player. He's the former 6th overall pick.
I'm surprised they want to trade him with Wood. I know they lost Mackenzie Gore, but you thought Abrams and Wood were going to be the next building blocks.
He's controllable for 3 years, 26, 27, 28. I think there's been some highs and lows with the Nationals. There was an odd story. Wasn't it a year and a half ago, Brent? Do you remember the story we talked about with C.J. Abrams? Do you remember the Sammy where he was like at a casino in all hours of the night? And then they didn't play him. They might have even sent him down after that exact moment. Now, maybe a learning lesson. That was over a year ago.
He was on a heater, like The Hangover said. You never leave the table when you're on a heater.
I forget where that was. And he put together a nice year. His year was better than Xander Bogaerts. Like his bat plays, especially as a middle infielder in the major leagues. But to what end? Am I really going to give up three or four of my quote unquote top prospects in my organization to go get a player? I don't even know where you're going to play him. It does speak to the general points, which is they could use a starting pitcher and they could use a bat just in general. Now he's a left-handed bat. We often talk about them needing a right-handed bat. So I typically think it all works itself out. Like I want as much talent and offense as I can get. He's not going to be a guy that's ever going to hit 35 home runs in the major leagues.
I think it would be universally celebrated if they somehow got him back. But to your point, what are the logistics of making that happen?
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's one of these things that there's been some other names this offseason where we're like, oh yeah, the Padres are rumored to be linked to whomever. And we're like, but how? Like it's one thing to have an interest in a player. It's another thing to have the mechanisms to pull it off. So again, I'll believe it when I see it. And this is where the money has nothing to do with it. Like this Darvish thing we talked about yesterday. It's not like all of a sudden you get money and you can go get CJ Abrams. No, you need capital. You need prospects to go get CJ Abrams. All right. On the other side, Bill Belichick, the latest with his Hall of Fame candidacy. He's a lock to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, the greatest head coach in NFL history. We've got the latest there. Plus, would Mike McCarthy want Aaron Rodgers back truthfully? You'll hear from Mike McCarthy, the new Steelers head coach, coming up later this hour. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Aztecs are back home tomorrow night to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6:30. John will have the tip at 7:30. In NFL news, the Bills promoted their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to the head coaching spot and gave him a 5-year deal. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long, Miles Bird coming up at 3:30. If you missed Will Brinson, our NFL Insider, we're going to bring that back to you at 3 p.m. here today. Great to connect with Will Brinson, our NFL Insider. Let's touch on the NFL. All right, clearly the relationship that Bill Belichick has had. What's her name?
Jordan Hudson.
That's going to have no impact, right, on his ability to get into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. It's not, right?
No way.
Seth Wickersham, Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has failed to meet the threshold. The 8-time champion did not receive 40 of the necessary 40 out of 50 votes required for induction. That, to me, is jaw-dropping, shocking, and can only be explained away by the last 12 to 18 months of bad press. Not his coaching, not his acumen, not his accomplishments, but it's a what have you done for me lately world. He didn't win late in his NFL career. That's all excusable in my opinion. But then this UNC debacle is a true debacle. What does it have to do with Canton, John? Nothing. But everything is tied to something. And it's just been it's been one bad PR hit after another. How else do you explain the fact that he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer? In the article, it says that Belichick is both puzzled and disappointed in his inability to secure support from at least 80% of the Hall of Fame committee members. What do you make of that?
Well, obviously it's insane. Whatever you think about Bill Belichick,
yeah, exactly. I agree.
He's a 7-time or 6-time Super Bowl champion. He's won multiple times as a coordinator.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. This is insane to start with. But to your point about the bad PR hits, and this obviously has something to do with it. Let's look at the last few years. It was always thought of too was that Brady benefited from Belichick. Brady goes to Tampa, wins the Super Bowl. People start going, was Bill, okay, maybe was Brady more the catalyst? Mac Jones looks terrible with Bill Belichick at the helm. All of a sudden, Kyle Shanahan this year in San Francisco, he looks like one of the hot new quarterback prospects that could get traded and be a starter next year. You have the whole Jordan Hudson, whatever you think about that, about him dating a 24-year-old. Then you got him, to what your point, North Carolina did not go well. Then you had to remember HBO was going to do a documentary and they pulled it. I mean, it has been one thing after another with him. And in no way does this excuse this. Like this is terrible. I mean, it reduces the integrity of the Hall of Fame. If Bill Belichick can't be a surefire Hall of Famer, then I don't really know who can. But to your point, it's a what have you done for me lately world and league. And I guess all the bad press, people aren't really vibing with Bill Belichick nowadays.
I never would have that's where my head initially goes. Now I'm reading this ESPN article from Seth Wickersham. And in the article, it says multiple sources told ESPN that both Spygate and Deflategate, the twin cheating scandals during the Patriots championship run, came up in deliberations.
That's interesting.
I'm like, really? I mean, you're going way back. You're going now, not to say that it's not maybe a part of the story, but I mean, it's a defining moment of like Tom Brady's career tied to that. No, by and large. So why would it be with Bill Belichick? And by the way, there's been so many of these over the years in college and NFL football. I mean, at the end of the day, what you just said, the lead is this. The guy's an 8-time Super Bowl winning coach, 6 as a head coach, and twice as a coordinator. No one else can say that. And you're not a first ballot lock.
It's insane. And by the way, I'm not a New England Patriot fan, but people want to point to Deflategate. They beat the Colts by 35. Okay, so if they deflated the footballs, that's one thing. And that
it wasn't like they won 6-5.
They won right. They won. They won on a last-second play, and the ball was deflated. Like that game, the Colts were with Andrew Luck were never in that game. So, am I excusing this? Absolutely not. You've had other scandals. You had Dennis Allen, the targeting as the head coach of the Saints. I mean, should that come up in his legacy as maybe public perception? Yes, but I mean, he was allowed to coach for years after that. So why, if that was a ruining factor for him being in the Hall of Fame, why didn't the NFL make him quit? I mean, why didn't the NFL say you're done after all this? And what's so this is going to come up to what you said about Brady. So when Brady gets inducted in the Hall of Fame, people are going to go, well, you were a part of Deflategate and Spygate, so you're not a Hall of Famer?
No, of course not. And by the way, I didn't realize this. The backdrop of both Belichick and Robert Kraft being up for inclusion in the same year, and their longtime relationship has had a very rocky public ending. So there was a world in which both were going to be recognized by the Hall of Fame on the same day, or a world where Belichick was in, Kraft was out, or the opposite, which nobody ever would have considered. I never would have thought Robert Kraft would get in before Bill Belichick.
By the way, he's had a few scandals himself as well.
And it's unknown at this time, according to this article, whether Robert Kraft has received the necessary votes for the Hall of Fame. Now, of course, Robert Kraft is a team in the Super Bowl again, which has only, kind of bolstered his accomplishments as an owner. So kind of a fascinating story. Is it tied more to the cheating scandals? Is it tied more to, here's the thing. We're all human beings, and you got 50 people right now that get a vote. Most of them are veteran writers. Some of them are accomplished executives, like the Bill Polians of the world. But again, they're all human beings, and they all go to ESPN.com or open up the newspaper. And you can't avoid what's played out here publicly with Belichick over the last 1 or 2 years. And I just think it's had a negative political impact at his potential inclusion into the Hall of Fame.
And to that end, this is complete speculation. Is just show the power of Tom Brady and Robert Kraft. I'm not saying that he's going around campaigning against Bill Belichick,
right?
But I mean, you literally can't make an argument. That'd be like saying Michael Jordan's not a Hall of Famer. Like, I mean, I don't. You cannot make an argument that he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. It makes no sense. You go through all the other head coaches who have been first ballot Hall of Famers, and none of them have better resumes than Bill Belichick. It is amazing that I guess the last 5, 6, 7 years, his name has been dragged through the mud. Some of it his doing. And it is fascinating how the Patriots, for most of that dynasty, they were the buttoned up dynasty. They were, you didn't hear anything. It was Kraft, Brady, and Belichick, and it was kind of the big three.
Yep.
And everything else happened. And then remember that article came out and before Brady left, and you realize, were they saying it? Belichick and Brady never went to dinner once. They couldn't even be around each other. And you realize all this dissension that was happening during all those years. It really is like a story arc of a band. I mean, they rose, they had an unbelievable legacy, and then they all fell apart. But this is shocking to me.
Yeah, it really is. Now, at the end of the day, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe this is like a statement, so to speak. Like, hey, but you're not a first ballot Hall of Famer. And honestly, it does, to your point, I think you made earlier, it kind of takes away some of the credibility of the Hall of Fame. Like when you let something like this become political, I think it's a bad look for Canton. I mean, you're 333 and 178. That's his career record in the NFL with 6 rings as a head coach and 2 as a coordinator. That's it. That's the story. It's not a hall of great people. It's not. Baseball one isn't. I mean, you've got bad people. I'm not saying Bill Belichick is.
Right.
I'm just saying you've got people that have not had the same they're not the same person off a field or outside their profession that they are in the profession. But that's not for the judgment of these Hall of Fame.
It's not a humanitarian award.
It's not. I mean, and the story is the story. The thing with history is people are remembered the way you want to remember them. So Bill Belichick is not the one that's going to be able to write his story. We're going to tell his story when he's here and when he's gone. But part of the story is he is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the history of the NFL. To say that he isn't is a disservice to what he's accomplished as a coach.
Totally,
right?
And it was always thought of that the NFL Canton was one of the most respectable things ever. I mean, there's like tweets right now that like Adam Schefter text from an NFL executive, the 10+ people that didn't vote for Bill Belichick should be exposed. Like I'm curious who these people are. I mean, it's how do you justify if you let your personal bias, maybe you don't like Bill Belichick, but to your point, there's really no argument you can make against this. I think it just takes away the credibility. And I'm curious, like, when's the next coach that is a first ballot Hall of Famer? I mean, like, and how's that going to look?
I mean, it would be like an Andy Reid.
Right.
Who, by the way, will likely be one because he's kind of
he's beloved.
Yeah, he's stayed out of the spotlight. Now, I would have said Bill Belichick if you asked me this like 4 years ago. I'd be like, why are we even talking? What a waste of time. I mean, of course he is. There's nothing that would suggest he's not a first ballot Hall of Fame lock until he's not. I hate when the politics get in the way of the accomplishments. I mean, I'll localize it to like Machado. Machado is not a likable figure in baseball. Sorry, he just isn't. I mean, I think there's a lot of Padres fans that do like him. I think there's others that he rubs the wrong way, but that's not the point. His accomplishments are going to speak for themselves. And let's just say for a second, he hits 515 home runs and finishes with 3,199 hits. That is a first ballot Hall of Fame lock based on credentials. And then you allow the human element of it, where it's all based on voters. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's not metrically or analytically based. And some people say, you know what? He rubbed me the wrong way. Ken Rosenthal, has a bad relationship with Manny Machado. The sinister sling, the playoffs with the Orioles, and he didn't win in the postseason. I don't care. And I have a feeling, I honestly do have this feeling with Machado. Machado is a lock for me. Just give it time. He's got to still earn it. He's got to compile the stats. But at the end of the day, he's a Hall of Fame lock. But I think he might be prevented from being a first ballot Hall of Famer because of politics. Because of politics. Yeah.
Even you have a Heisman vote. I remember listening to this. Yeah. You voted for Mendoza 1 and Pavia 2, right?
I voted Mendoza 1, Pavia 2, Julian Sayin 3.
Okay.
And now that Pavia came out and said what he said about the voters, I'm like, I wish I didn't vote for him second.
Exactly.
Yep.
But Pavia is Diego Pavia a likable figure? Not I would say no.
But his numbers spoke for themselves.
So you voted him number 2 because he clearly was the second best player in college football last year behind Fernando Mendoza. I mean, you took your personal bias. If it was a likability award, I'm not speaking for you. I assume he wouldn't be on your top 3.
Right.
It was likability. So it's crazy that, to your point, that we're letting personal bias creep in. And the Machado point is an interesting one. I wonder, because I'm with you, he's on a pace to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think it's hard pressed to make an argument against him, assuming his career keeps going and he doesn't have any massive injuries. But you do wonder if his reputation and the way people view him would affect this, kind of like Bill Belichick.
It will. He will be in the Hall of Fame, and he will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, would be my guess, no matter what he does from here on out. All right, we're going to hear from Mike McCarthy on the other side. Speaking of veteran NFL coaches, this one is still coaching. Would Mike McCarthy, speaking of fallouts, would Mike McCarthy want Aaron Rodgers back at quarterback? Of course, McCarthy, the new head coach of the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers just led the Steelers to the postseason here earlier in 2026. You'll hear from Mike McCarthy on the other side on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the proud franchise that's had just 3 coaches since 1969. Now they're 4th. They'll have a 5th in 2 years. But Mike McCarthy is the new head coach. He's 62 years of age. He won a Super Bowl. Do you remember this, Sammy, with Aaron Rodgers?
Over the Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
Oh, yeah. A lifetime ago, was it not? I mean, true. Like, look at Mike McCarthy. When they won a Super Bowl, look at Aaron Rodgers. So that's how you know it was truly a lifetime ago. The whole sport has changed entirely. Like the way the impact of just like analytics, the way plays are drawn, the way everything is different. Everything is different about the league. And here we are now, where Mike McCarthy gets hired by the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers leads them to the playoffs.
Full circle moment.
Like, yeah, so it doesn't make sense why did the Steelers hire Mike McCarthy? Did they hire him under the belief that, hey, you're going to lead Aaron Rodgers back to a Super Bowl when he's 43? Well, anyway, obviously the question is going to come up. Hey, would you want Aaron Rodgers back at quarterback? This was earlier today.
I'm not asking this from any other perspective except your own personal preference. In your best case scenario, do you want Aaron Rodgers back as your quarterback next year?
That's nice the way he asked that, right? That was slick. But I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. But I think just like anything, knowing Aaron long enough, going through seasons, I think when players, to see Mel Blunt here, I mean, when guys are up at that stage of their career, they need to step away and decompress it. I think that's very important. The game is so emotional, what these men commit to and what they put into it. I think that time away is important, and I have spoken to Aaron, and so that's really where we are there. But I was able to sit back and watch the games. I watched most of the Pittsburgh games on TV, and I thought he was a great asset for the team.
Okay, so he thought he was a great asset for the team.
Hey, if my alternative was Mason Rudolph, I'd say definitely
That's
too.
a good point.
Will Howard? Yeah, exactly. It's like, so what are the Steelers doing? Forget about Mike McCarthy for a second. You have Aaron Rodgers who's going to make some random decision months from now. Right?
I was going to say
hold the organization hostage. It'll be like the day before camp. Oh, I'm not coming back.
100%.
So it's like, what are the Steelers even? Forget about the Mike McCarthy part of it. What are they even doing? Even if he comes back, you're not winning anything. Sorry.
Right.
If he doesn't come back, you're not winning anything. So what are they doing?
Well, I think it's nice that Mike McCarthy has come a long way since forgiving Aaron Rodgers, because do we all not remember the fact that
he got him fired?
He got him fired. And Aaron Rodgers, it was so bad, he stopped calling McCarthy's plays when he was with Green Bay.
He was just like doing whatever
he was just calling his own game, and the coaching staff was completely furious at it.
It is interesting. Like he said there that he had spoken with Aaron. I mean, how? What was that conversation like?
Yeah, because to Sammy's point, remember, I think it was ESPN wrote like a 19-page article about it where they were detailing that if I almost called him Favre, if Rodgers got a play called into the huddle that he didn't like, he would either just audible it,
right,
or he would snap the ball and just throw the ball out of bounds.
Oh yeah, I do
just
remember
throw
that.
it away just to be a prick about it.
This goes back to, we had the conversation earlier, Belichick, Brady, Kraft. Now, I'm not giving McCarthy, Rodgers near that level of accomplishment.
But they were established around that time.
But even like we were talking off air about like the way dynasties are remembered, or like how do you view the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe? How are people going to view the Warriors, whether it's with KD or Steph or the whole thing? At the end of the day, when you have so much power, so many egos, so much success, oftentimes it gets a little muddy. Now, It's always amazing when it doesn't. Like it's hard to be fully like clean, like a clean dynasty. There's always going to be drama. Like we watched during the pandemic, the Bulls, whatever it was called, The Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
All it is drama. This is a 6-time championship organization over 8 years. It would have been 6 out of 6.
And Michael and Scotty hated management.
Isn't that insane? That so all of these have like drama associated with them, including McCarthy and Rodgers. Completely.
And this is such a whatever hire. I mean, it's a safe hire. They're gonna go to him and go, hey, you won a Super Bowl ring, and we lost Mike Tomlin, and John Harbaugh's not in the division anymore. I thought the problem that everyone had with Mike Tomlin for Steeler fans was you won You had a winning record every season, despite who it was. If it was Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, whoever the hell it was,
Right.
You had a winning record. You got to the postseason. You lost. Their last playoff win was 2016 against the Chiefs, and you were never in an NFL draft position to actually rebuild the team and get a new quarterback. This is exactly what if Rodgers comes back and Mike McCarthy, they're going to win 7 to 8 games.
Yep.
They might win the division. Who knows? I don't think so. I think it's probably going to Baltimore or Cincy, but they're not going to be awful. And you're going to be in the same spot with what I think is a worse head coach. I mean, I thought the whole thing was getting rid of Mike Tomlin was you're going to go with a young gun hire, recycling coaches from the past. It's not even like he developed his guys in Dallas. I mean, Dallas was look at Dallas's offense this year. They were running the ball all over the place. Dak Prescott was an MVP candidate. Mike McCarthy didn't have them doing that. This makes no sense whatsoever to me.
No, and he famously got trashed in Green Bay because he never changed his game plan. If Rodgers would get hurt in the first quarter, he would trot the backup out there and do the exact same game plan like Aaron Rodgers was out there, and then he just couldn't figure out why it didn't work.
Yeah, it's the NFL is such an interesting league, is what I would say. And I say this sometimes in general with like baseball, and I would say the same thing in the NBA. There's no worse spot to be in than in the middle. Because when you're bad, first of all, it draws. I mean, it's not the best headlines, but you're always like, oh my gosh, how bad are the Browns? And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, you're picking number 2 overall.
Right, the NFL draft's a big event for your franchise.
And at least you have an opportunity to build it back. Now, it doesn't work for some franchises. So you never, being bad sometimes works, and especially in the NBA. You could end up with like LeBron James when you're Cleveland back in the day, or you want to be really good. Obviously, baseball is the same thing. Like missing out on the playoffs when all these teams are making the postseason, like it's a bad spot to be in. You're just like the 15th best baseball team. Like, what does that really equate? And that's where Pittsburgh is now. They've probably been there for a long time, but to go from Mike Tomlin to an older head coach that is a complete retread with no real vision for the future is actually surprising to me for the Steelers, who have been so tried and true, consistently successful. But you wonder if those days are kind of coming to an end with the Steelers, truthfully.
I think they can get along this time just because things are changed.
Yeah.
Well, you have to look at it like this. Rodgers has really no power in Pittsburgh. It's not like what it was at the time in Green Bay to where, he held all the cards and if he wanted him gone, he was gone. And that's what ended up happening. He doesn't have the pull like that in Pittsburgh to just sit there and make demands. Then they'll just cave into him. And honestly, both of them, they're both on their last legs. And, we brought the Jordan thing. It's probably the last dance for both of them. So they kind of need each other if they want to stay in the league.
And I think both guys have looked at their tenure with Green Bay as failures. I mean, Rodgers should have on talent more rings. He should have been in more Super Bowls. He's lost to the Niners countless times, lost to the Giants a couple times. I mean, I don't think people look back at their tenure outside that one Super Bowl as a quote success. So bringing an older version to Pittsburgh, I don't get it.
Good luck. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go. Like, is it going to be Aaron Rodgers in 2026 or not? I think either way, the Steelers are completely in no man's land. Sammy, appreciate you, man. Let's do it again tomorrow. All right, Will Brinson on the other side. If you missed our NFL Insider with much more, plus coming up later in the 3:00 hour, where will Luis Ariz land? Ken Rosenthal weighing in on that, and San Diego State guard Miles Byrd will join us coming up at 3:30. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
The support is sponsored by unbound.org. In NFL news, Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The 8-time Super Bowl winning coach, failed to get the necessary amount of votes to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. In other NFL news, the Bills promoted offensive coordinator Joe Brady to be their next head coach. He signed a 5-year deal with the team today. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help them change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, hour 2 here on San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Brent Sperry. We're here until 6 p.m. Miles Bird is on the show, the Aztec outstanding redshirt junior guard. He'll join us at 3:30, coming off one of the better games of his career. 5 of 5 from beyond the arc, 23 points, steals, assists, blocks. He does a little bit of everything. The Aztecs host Colorado State tomorrow. We have tickets to give away for their next home game, not Colorado State, but Wyoming next week. And we'll do that after our conversation coming up at 3:30 with Miles Burr. But if you missed Will Brinson, our NFL insider from CBS Sports, we caught up with him yesterday and we started the conversation by talking about this Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, of course. Always a pleasure. Obviously, I'm sad that my Rams aren't there, having for Sam Darnold, though. And look, I mean, I think, Patriots Seahawks is at least a game. I'll say this. I think it's interesting. So last night during the Rams Seahawks game, I had the group chat with the boys at home. Everyone's like, whoever wins this is going to bludgeon the Patriots. And I was kind of like, all right, that's an interesting take. And then my Aunt Susan, who's a big NFL fan, big Jaguars fan, texted me, was like, whoever wins this is going to destroy the Patriots. I was like, this seems, if everybody thinks the Super Bowl is going one way, maybe it's going a different way. But then the line moved a full 1.5 today. It was, 3.5 when it opened. And I think the Seahawks are at least 5-point favorites. And you can make a pretty compelling case for it, right? The Seahawks have, if it's not the best defense in football, it's the second best defense in football. And I think they are just as good or like on par with the Texans. Obviously, their offense, really started to click. Sam Darnold's been a perfect mesh with Kubiak. Looks fantastic against the Rams, kind of kicking all the ghosts and the demons to the curb and whatnot. Rashid Shaheed, the addition of him during the season was a monster ad. And Chance Walker looks like, he looked exactly like he looked in college on Sunday night. So, the Seahawks are definitely a more complete team. And then I think with the Patriots, if you're going to nitpick New England, I mean, May threw for 86 passing yards in the conference championship in advance. Like that's pretty crazy. And I know the conditions were tough, and the Broncos defense is a top 5 unit as well. But you look at like the Patriots. As I saw the stat, the Patriots are like 0.01 in terms of expected like EPA per play on offense, better than this postseason. For the full postseason, they played some tough defense, but for the full postseason, 0.01 points of EPA better than the Jets' entire regular season.
Wow.
And they've not been a very good offense, and they've won because Mike Vrabel doesn't flinch. They've got a great defense. The coaching staff has really dialed up everything in the right spots. And so, you could make the case that Seattle is just a significantly better team at this point in time in totality. And then you look at, the Patriots get the easiest schedule maybe in NFL history in the regular season. They get the Chargers with no tackles. They get the Texans with no Nico Collins. They get the Broncos with no quarterback. I mean, it is like Moses stepped in and just parted everything for them. So I can buy into the idea that Seattle rolls here. I don't think New England can blow out Seattle. I think if New England covers or it's a good game, it's a really low scoring game. But I think it's in the realm of possibility that the Seahawks put a hang one on the Patriots here.
I just hope, just from like a fan's perspective, from an entertainment perspective, we want a good game. Last year was not a good game. We all remember, Will. I mean, how old are you, Will? Can I ask that on air?
I'm 44.
Okay, so I'm 45. So we grew up.
I remember.
Yeah, they sucked. The games were not. It was all about the commercials.
Well, And I don't want to bring up bad San Diego memories, but I remember. I'm at my parents' house because we were dodging the storm. I remember sitting in this very room watching the Niners Chargers, Super Bowl that was just
Awesome.
was over by the first quarter, and we had that run of just great games.
Yep.
I think we're gonna load. I think we will gonna like. I don't think Mike Vrabel's getting blown out in the Super Bowl. There's a guy who said he would cut off his lower man regions for a Super Bowl title. I don't think it happens, but yeah, I mean, like it's definitely like if Sam Darnold plays the way that he played on Sunday night, I think it is definitely in the realm of possibility that Seattle rolls. But I mean, Drake May's a really good young quarterback too.
Yeah, no doubt. Will Brinson's our NFL insider. He's with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on what the Minnesota Vikings might be thinking right now as an organization, right? Did they offered maybe Darnold a year? He gets the multiple years, obviously, in Seattle. Again, we have the benefit of hindsight now, but what kind of look is this, in your opinion, for the Vikings on the other side of it?
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, I do think that with Minnesota, when you went and got Sam Darnold as a free agent, you weren't thinking he's going to win us 14 games and we're going to sign, because they went into the season thinking J.J. McCarthy would start and Sam Darnold would, J.J. McCarthy would win the job, and then Sam Darnold would be there as a backup, and then Darnold took over and was great. So it was a tough spot for them. Now, I think that NFL teams in general probably need to be more aggressive and more, more objective when it comes to making quarterback decisions. For instance, you could have said, all right, yeah, we've got JJ on this, low salary cap number. He's on his rookie deal. We have to see what he's got. We use a first round pick on him. But you also could have been like, you know what? Sam Darnold's awesome. And he's working great in this system. He's a former number 3 overall pick. Screw it. Let's just sign him to a big contract and just run this back again next year. And if they've done that, they're probably a playoff team. And Seattle's definitely not in the Super Bowl because they're still sitting with Geno Smith. Mm-hmm. So, I think it was one of those where there are confirmation bias to a degree. Also, you sort of like, you're trying to make the math work and the analytics say roll with a rookie. So I get it. Maybe J.J. McCarthy gets there, but yeah, I mean, if you're Minnesota, you should have just paid Sam Darnold and kept both guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, it's so easy. Like I do this all the time in all sports. It's like, well, what if? Well, I mean, again, we're doing it with the benefit of knowing what plays out along the way. What do you make of the news just around the league right now? Again, the Bills head coaching vacancy. I haven't followed this overly closely, just that Rivers interviewed and then today he withdrew. What's the reasoning behind or the belief behind Philip Rivers no longer being considered or taking his name out of the process?
I'm not going to make the joke I made on social media about Philip Rivers deciding not to return. Right. He pulled his name out of the Bills job. I'll just leave it there. But I will say that with Rivers, I get the sense that there's a chance Buffalo knows who it wants to go and get, and that person might be on one of the staffs of New England or Seattle. I mean, maybe it's like Clint Kubiak. We'll see. It could very well be Davis Webb, who they're interviewing with. They interviewed today, the really highly thought of former, I think, second-round pick, or maybe later, maybe third round, but who Sean Payton hired after one interview. And if Sean Payton hires you after one interview, it's a pretty good sign. So I think there's a chance it's Davis Webb, maybe it's Clint Kubiak. We'll see. But you watch Mike McDaniel pull his name out of the interview list, see Philip Rivers pull his name out, and that leads you to believe the Bills maybe were talking to these guys about other positions. And I think for Philip, too, he's got Gunnar, his oldest son, is going to be a senior in high school. And, Phil's probably maybe last chance unless Gunnar goes into state and Phil comes home and coaches him, which is obviously my dream.
Right.
But, maybe his last chance to coach him. So I would anticipate, I think right now it just doesn't make a lot of sense for Philip to try to make that move to Buffalo, from Alabama, with all of his kids, with his son in high school. And I think family, as anybody who, followed the Chargers for years knows, family is the thing for Phil. And so I would anticipate that, he knows he can get a job down the road, but this one right now, as good as an opportunity as it would be to coach Josh Allen, maybe not the one for him, given his family circumstances.
Another just coaching move. This is, the OC with the Chargers officially hiring Mike McDaniel. This seems on its face to be a massive win for the Chargers, right? Like he was clearly sought after by a number of teams. He ends up in LA. What type of marriage is this going to be with Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel? What's this going to mean for Justin Herbert?
Well, it's a funky one. And not only that in a bad way. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is a nut job. Mike McDaniel's a nut job too. They're nut jobs in different ways. I think Mike McDaniel will. So the Chargers, look, Greg Roman, I think did a good job with the Chargers offense, and Greg Roman's done a great job with Jim Harbaugh's offenses in the past. But the Chargers, do lack a little bit of kind of creativity, or did lack a little bit of creativity with the offense, just in terms of like what they can dial up. And Mike McDaniel will change that. I think like you can expect a monster year from Ladd McConkey. That Ladd's not Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. But, he's a guy that Mike McDaniel will move around, get the most out of him. I think you'll see explosive plays from Quentin Johnson. You'll see a great run game. Mike McDaniel's a great coach. The Dolphins thing, he made Tua look pretty good for a long time. Yeah. And I think he'll make Justin Herbert look even better. So, I think it's a huge win for the Chargers to get him in town on the staff and to see what he can cook up, especially if this offensive line is healthy going into next year.
Final one, again, this is, revisionist a little bit, but Sean Payton's decision there, up 7-0. Obviously, we know how it ends with New England winning the game. What did you think of it in real time? And, I mean, with the benefit, again, that might have been the difference between winning and losing the game, right?
Yeah, for sure. And in real time, I was like, I think Sean Payton's probably going to go for this. Yeah. And I don't know what the answer is, whether he should go or not go. Seth Wickersham has a good article on ESPN today where he was with Payton after the game, where Payton basically said, I had one run play, I had one pass play. I called the pass play, and they lined up in a defensive formation and a defensive alignment that we hadn't seen. And that was basically the nuts for stopping, it's like a full house. It's like you got two pairs, you're going up against a full house, like it's over. So I think, that part of it is a little hindsighty. I do think if, we saw the CBS broadcast do the sort of static image timeline of the field and like the conditions and what happened. I think that if you had told Sean Payton, like if he'd known that the weather was going to do that at some point in the afternoon, I don't think anybody knew, right? I mean, they came out of nowhere. I think if he'd known that at the time, he probably would have kicked there. But, at his point too, I think he told Seth this, was like, I wanted 14-0. And he's not wrong. If you make it if you get that fourth down, you make it 14-0 that early, the game's not over, but you were putting yourself in a really good position to go to the Super Bowl. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I'm not going to, denounce any criticism of it just because if he kicked it, the game maybe ends differently.
Football. I mean, we've said it a lot. I mean, that's
exactly football.
That is football, and that is sports, and specifically the NFL. So the margins are so thin. We're talking about a play determining winning and losing in football. I mean, that's constantly been the case. You could argue the same thing in the Rams-Seahawks game, right, with a muff kick.
Yeah, well, exactly. We got like two guys named Sean who go for it on fourth down in key spots and don't get it, and they're ripped the next day. And it's like if they both get it, it's like look at these grand geniuses who knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, 100%. Will, appreciate you doing it. Let's do it again. Hopefully we can catch up again next week as we get ready for the Super Bowl.
We'll do it next week.
Great stuff. All right, again, our NFL insider, Will Brinson. We're getting back to the Padres on the other side, or at least a former Padre. Where will Luis Ariz land? Ken Rosenthal on the Foul Territory podcast weighs in. And San Diego State guard Miles Bird joins us live at 3:30. After our conversation, we'll give away some Aztec tickets as well for next week against Wyoming at Viejas Arena. This is San Diego Sports 760. All right, Miles Bird coming up in 12 minutes. He will join us live, and then we'll give away some Aztec tickets for an upcoming home game against Wyoming. We do remind you that San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the Bonus Box giveaway. Every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 4 p.m. What would I do right now for $1,000? Let's say they just put it on the desk. 10 $100 bills, Brent. I was just saying there's Girl Scout cookies in the other room for $6.
A lot of Samoas.
That's a lot. But I'd grab a box or two to start my $1,000. But if you were given $1,000 right now, just hand it on the desk. 10 $100 bills. Got to spend it. What are you buying?
Some shoes.
Okay. Those are expensive shoes.
Well, I didn't say I was going to get one pair of shoes. Maybe get a couple pairs of shoes.
Okay.
And get some stuff for the dog and
some Girl Scout cookies too.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, you have a chance to win $1,000 coming up at 4 p.m. Miles Bird will join us in 10 minutes. Listen to this ringing endorsement for former Padre Luis Arraez. So this is from Ken Rosenthal on the Foul Territory podcast. Brent makes a really good point that after hearing this, Luis Arraez is definitely coming back to San Diego. Take a listen to this.
Where in the world could Luis Arraez sign?
Not exactly sure, Scott. And it's almost February, and you're right. We have not heard much about him. It doesn't mean things are not going on behind the scenes, but Arraez is a guy who is really the most fascinating free agent in so many ways. Obviously, he has what they call the hit tool. He can hit for average. That is the thing he does extraordinarily well. The rest of his game is the problem. And we're talking about defense, of course, and we're talking about power. He has no power in an age when basically you need power, and his defense, whether it's second or first, is not at an average level at this stage of his career. So there are spots I can imagine him being. The Giants are still looking for a second baseman. I don't know that they would want to compromise their infield defense in that way, but maybe they would. And then I know you guys have talked about the Blue Jays a little bit. I don't really see that. It seems to me their infield is pretty set, but I would imagine he's going to get a deal somewhere. It's not going to be a very financially lucrative deal, and it's going to be almost a prove-it year for him, which is kind of weird because he is a player who has proven it, but I just don't see a huge market for him right now.
Man, that doesn't scream, big year coming up or bring him home for Luis Arraez. And how the mighty have fallen, by the way. Like Luis Arraez, when the Padres traded for him, universally praised, right? This hitter that had hit 330 plus in his career. I think he had a 352 season.
Batting champion.
Multiple time batting champ, used all fields. And we're kind of like, you hear that from Ken Rosenthal, like, oh, what did Arraez hit last year? 207. I mean, he hit 292. It's not embarrassing. His OPS was 719. Not embarrassing. Actually, major league average. His WAR was 1.2. It's not great. The issue he runs into, and I thought he was serviceable. I really do believe this. I thought he was serviceable defensively. But playing Luis Arraez at first base means where are you getting your power from? Because if you're not getting it there, you need to overcompensate for it somewhere else. Or he's got to hit 355, which would be amazing. I mean, if you hit 355. But when you hit 292 and you're so, I don't know, like swing happy at the plate, right? He's not a patient hitter. He is a little bit of a unicorn. He certainly has bat on ball skills, ridiculous bat on ball skills. I don't think he's going to get much money. And maybe that's what ultimately leads him back to San Diego. It still would surprise me. But if he's not going to get a lot of money, I don't know. Maybe there's some type of homecoming. Like, what's more likely? Luis Arraez comes back on a prove-it deal, or the Padres trade for C.J. Abrams? I would say Luis Arraez because it's much more reasonable. It's affordable. Maybe you can get him on the cheap, and maybe you can get him for 1 year. You got to remember, he's 28. Luis Arraez is 28. He is capable of hitting 315 again in the major leagues. He'll likely have a year in which he hits 315 again in the major leagues. I just don't know if it's next year.
I thought it would have been a knock if he would have just came out and been like, yeah, he used to be able to hit, but he has no power, and he's just okay defensively. But he didn't even just be like, oh yeah, he's just okay defensively. His
defense, whether it's second or first, is not at an average level at this stage of his career. So
it's like you're not even average. It's like you're not even okay defensively.
You know, it's funny, Brian, because we watch these games. When you're
I don't think he's awful.
I don't think so either. I think he's very average. In fact, there's very few balls when I think back at Arise defensively that are butchered. Okay, he's not the biggest, and he's not the fastest, so maybe he doesn't get to everything. But typically that can be overcome at first base. You don't have to do anything. Like you have to one side of you is the foul, is the baseline, and to the other side of you, you just kind of field your position. I didn't think it was egregious. I really didn't. Now where he is lacking, and that is fair, is in power. He's never been a power guy. I mean, how many players in modern baseball have stuck around as long as someone like Luis Ariz that have hit 36 career home runs? I mean, 36 career home runs in 10 years. Not that long, but in 8 years,
has to be like
nothing.
a Juan Pierre or something. Where you run like a 4.240
exactly
or something.
Right.
Yeah, he does other uses.
He doesn't do that. He is. You know how many bases Luis Ariz has stolen in his career? He's been up since 2019.
25.
31. And 11 of them. This is all you need to know about the ridiculous stolen base rule now on the larger bases. 11 of Luis Ariz's 11 of his 31 career stolen bases in 7 years happened last year. And 20 of his 31 are since the stolen base rule change. So save it with the 50-50 for Ohtani. All right, Miles Bird on the other side. San Diego State outstanding redshirt junior guard coming off a career game against UNLV. Getting ready for Colorado State tomorrow night at 7:30 at Viejas Arena. He'll join us live on the other side, and we'll give away some Aztec tickets for next week at home against Wyoming. That's next on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. The Aztecs are back home at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7:30. In NFL news, the Bills promoted offensive coordinator Joe Brady to their head coaching spot. He signed a 5-year deal today, and Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did not get the required 80% of the votes today to be a first ballot. Refresh your bathroom with big savings at Lowe's. Reimagine your bathroom and get up to 40% off select faucets during Lowe's bathroom saving event and transform your space. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
All right, San Diego State gets Colorado State tomorrow night at Viejas Arena. These are all big games as the Aztecs are in first place right now in the Mountain West. It is great to catch up with Miles Byrd. He's coming off a career game where he was just sensational at all facets, 23 points, 5 of 5 from beyond the arc, but it's all the other things. It's the steals, it's the assists, it's the blocks. And Miles Byrd is back with us right now on San Diego Sports 760, home of the Aztecs. And Miles, appreciate you doing it. We're looking forward to tomorrow, and thanks for hopping on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, John.
All right, so I didn't realize this. I read from Mark Ziegler that after you guys got back late Wednesday night, that heartbreaking game at Grand Canyon, that it was already late. It was like the middle of the night by the time you got home, and before you went to sleep, you're like you couldn't sleep. You turned on the film and you watched back that game. What was going through your mind there, coming off the heartbreaking team loss? Your performance in general. What was it about Wednesday night that made you want to, stay up and think about it before going to bed late?
It's funny. I think most games, you just play with a lot of adrenaline. It's hard to get a lot of sleep after games.
Yeah.
So, most times we usually stay wherever we played at in away games, fly out the next morning. But we were lucky enough to, hop on a private plane and get back at a reasonable hour and sleep in our own beds. And, I do a lot of film watching by myself with my coaches, with my dad as well. And, I was frustrated, obviously, with the loss, how we lost, how I played in our loss. So, just doing reflecting for myself and, for the team standpoint. So got on my couch and turned on my little DirecTV stream app on my TV. And, I just rewatched the game, the full game, just so I could see, where I was getting my shots and, what I could have done better to, help the team, put the team in a better position to win.
And then, of course, you bounce back in this huge way on Saturday. We're going to get to that. When I talked to Reese Dixon-Waters yesterday, and Miles Byrd is with us right now, Aztecs redshirt junior guard coming off this huge game against UNLV. I mentioned to Reese, and you've heard me say this before, and others have said this, that, of course, Brian Dutch, your head coach, is so even keel, certainly publicly, where you can win a big game. He's not going to pretend like you won the national championship, and you can lose a big game, and he's not going to pretend as if the season is over. So when you're coming off this crazy game Wednesday night with all the adrenaline, all the energy in that building, the controversial finish, is it hard or is it easy to put that behind you as you got ready for Saturday?
I'd be lying if I said it was easy. As a competitor, especially one at San Diego State, where we don't like to lose, we don't lose often. It definitely stung. And, I think, just as a competitor like myself, it hurts more when you could have done more to, help guide and win a game there. But, I'm also older now. So I remember a game like Utah State at our place last year where, there was some controversial calls towards the end of the game, and we ended up losing that game. And, mentally, it took me a lot longer to get over that one. Just because I also thought I could play better in that one as well. But, with a more mature mind and, with our mindset this year, like the Mountain West this year is so good that you can't really dwell on that game. If we were to dwell on that game, probably would have went into Vegas and not been able to play as good as we did. So I think just from that standpoint, being able to flush it, understand, learn from it, obviously, but not hold as much weight to that loss. GCU it's an amazing crowd over there in Phoenix. They got a really good team, really talented, really well coached. So it's not like we went in and lost to a team that we were supposed to beat by 20. So obviously in that fashion, you don't like losing that way, but it was a little bit easier to get over that one and realize that it's one game, and now we just got to focus on not dropping 2 in a row.
It's interesting you say that, and I want to get more specifically into Saturday. But no, okay, so you're on the heels of Wednesday, and it doesn't go your way individually or collectively. And now you're coming off Saturday, where you get the team win and you play really well individually. So where's your mindset coming off a game like Saturday as you head into Wednesday? Are you doing similar things? Are you rewatching that? Like, how do you approach Wednesday off Saturday?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we got back a lot better of a time on Saturday because it was an earlier game. So, I got back, rested my body as much as I could. We had Sunday off, and, Sunday morning I was on my couch, rewatched the game. And, after rewatching every game, I feel like I try to do a good job of, putting it in the blinders. Obviously, we got a really well-coached Colorado State team coming in tomorrow. And in the Mountain West, if you look in the past or if you look in the future, the present is going to end up messing you up. And I think, we're just trying to, as a team and, me as a leader, trying to make sure we're all staying present in the moment and understanding the task at hand, which is tomorrow. So, honestly, I'm very happy with how I played, very happy with how I responded personally. But we got a really big week here for the Aztecs. So, trying to just reshift our focus to what's important, and that's ahead.
It is a huge week. They're all big, as we say, right, this time of year. Colorado State at home, then at Utah State on Saturday. What is it like as a player? You've had these games before, whether it's in college. I was watching the Combine this summer. You had some huge offensive games as well. Just coming up as a young player. What is it like when you're having the type of offensive success that you had on Saturday where seemingly every shot that you put up goes in? I said the same thing I think you might have said post-game, which is like, what do you mean he missed a shot? I looked at the box score, 7 for 8. There was a ball that you had like poked away on your way up that didn't even look like a true shot attempt. So really the 7 shots that reached the rim all went in. But what is it like from when you're playing and you're having that type of confidence?
It's tough, especially for a guy like me who, when I feel like I'm feeling it, I'm confident in anything I shoot. Still like in that UNLV game, it was hovering around 10-point lead, 8-point lead. They brought it to 6 at one point, get it to 12. And, at that point, it's winning basketball. So it's not like, despite me rolling, I didn't want to go out there and just go out there and start shooting shots that, wouldn't be good possessions for us either. So, just trying to find the balance. Obviously, I was really confident in the moment. Every shot I shot, I felt like I was going to make. But, we still got to play the right way and finish that game. And, I'm glad that we were able to do that at such a high level.
The play of the game, whether it was intended or not, UNLV had stolen back some of the momentum. I think you guys led by 11. They had a steal and maybe a dunk from Tyron Jones. And all of a sudden, the crowd's into it. It's a 7-point game. There's still 6, 7, 8 minutes left. That's how I recall it. And then it's a late shot clock situation, and the ball just ends up with you. And you're in front of the bench. You might be near Brian Dutcher, and you just hoist it up late in the shot clock. What are you thinking in that moment? And would you agree that was just from a momentum perspective that kind of changed the fortune of the rest of the game?
100. I think especially any late shot clock shot for any team defending, they were doing a good job that possession as well. I don't think we touched the paint not one time. So we were playing umbrella basketball. LZ kicked it to me on the high wing, about 7 seconds left, and I thought I was just comfortable. I thought he played a little too far back. Obviously it's a deep shot. So, most defenders probably are not trying to go up and guard that close. But, I was confident at that point. I was 4 for 4 from 3 already. And, I think that's like the conversations I'm having with coaches and like they trust me shooting those shots. They see me make those shots all the time, but, taking the right ones and, finding the groove before you start shooting those tough ones. I was able to start the game with a lot of step-in threes going 4 for 4. So, at that point, I'm already rolling, and I was confident taking that shot, and, I'm just happy with it.
Huge moment. And again, Miles Bird, 23 points. One of the, you look at the game within the game, it was a true unicorn of a game, which you've said a lot before about some of your games at San Diego State. You compile a line score or like in the box score, what you're posting is rarely done in college basketball or at San Diego State. Miles Bird with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I want to ask you about Colorado State, but first I want to ask about your relationship and just watching Reese Dixon Waters. You play so often together. You're both playing at this point like 30 plus minutes a game. You've been teammates for 3 years, although he didn't play last year because of his injury. What's it like playing alongside Reese right now at this point in his career. He goes over 1,000 career points. But what's it been like for you this year as you guys play together as much as you have?
Yeah, no, I think I love sharing the court with Reese. You know, I think Reese takes a lot of pressure off of me with his high shot making. You know, where I've never really been the guy that's like, I'm going to score 20 points a night.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, Reese can consistently give you a 15, and that takes a lot of pressure off of everybody else on the team. Relationship-wise on the court, you know, we've gone into a great friendship the past 3 years. You know, obviously I played spot minutes behind him and guys like Micah Parrish and stuff my sophomore year, or I should say my freshman year. And, you know, I think being able to just be around Reese every single day and, you know, us become more and more friends, it's easier to play together. And, you know, I'm just really happy to share the court with him. I mean, I told guys a story about when I decided I was going to be coming back to San Diego State on May 28th or whatever the date was, that Reese was the first person I called before, you know, my agent, my family, the coaching staff. I called Reese and let him know that I'm coming back just because I knew how excited we were last year to, you know, have the opportunity to be the 2 and the 3 on the court together at times. And, you know, I'm just happy that it was able to work out this year to where, you know, we're even more mature together now. We've been through a lot more. And, you know, I think we just complement each other so well when we play together.
One more before I ask you about CSU tomorrow night. I just thought about this Wednesday. You're on the floor at Grand Canyon, and 3 of your former teammates from a team that played in the national championship game are there. You have a group rope, your assistant coach, AG, who you played with. You have Adam Seiko, who's in like the first row. Nathan Mensah is there as well.
Yeah.
What is that like for you? I mean, here you are in the midst of your college career. It wasn't that long ago, but then again, it was a long time ago. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, when you do something so special with a group of guys, it's so hard for you not to stay close with them type of guys. So, you know, I mean, Nate, I did a lot of talking to Nate this summer while I was going through the process. You know, he called me multiple times just to give me advice. You know, that team group chat from that year is still very active, you know, during the holidays and stuff. You know, I mean, you grow such a tight relationship with everybody when you guys are doing all that traveling and march together. And it's almost like you guys are together for a month straight. So, I mean, you build a great relationship with them, and, you know, winning doesn't hurt that as well. You know, I think I got a lot of love for everybody that was on that team. And I still do a great job of conversating with everybody from that team. You know, I'm in a very active group chat with guys like Micah Parrish, Elijah Saunders, Keyshawn Johnson, Darian Trammell, Lamont Butler. So, yeah, I mean, I've done a great job of keeping in contact with them. And, you know, especially those guys like Seiko and AG and Nate. I was like really close and friends with guys like Lamont, guys a little bit closer to my age. But those 5th years and 6th years from that year, they were like my big brothers. So, I mean, they did a lot of guiding me during that year, tough year of me sitting out and, you know, going through the grind of redshirting. So, I mean, those are relationships that are going to be there forever. And, you know, I love going to Phoenix because, you know, Adam Seiko is going to be there every time. You know, Nate's obviously trying to figure out what he's doing next. So he's been in San Diego as well. So I've been able to chat with Nate a little bit more this week as well. And I mean, even seeing guys like Jamal Franklin there who's still very active in the program, still always around. I got great relationships with a lot of the alumni. So, I mean, it's always great to have them in the stands, have them sharing, but it's even better to, you know, being able to get on the phone with them after a rough one, or like Jamal Franklin texted me right after the game and told me to drop it and move on to the next one. So, you know, I mean, I've been an Aztec for 4 years. I'm an Aztec for life. And, you know, those relationships will always be there.
Absolutely love to hear it. All right, before you go, tell us about Colorado State. One of the more efficient offenses in the country. They've had some ups and downs. They've dealt with injuries, but they've gotten healthy. What type of opportunity and challenge are you expecting tomorrow night?
I mean, they're super well coached. I mean, I was heavily recruited by Colorado State coming out of high school. Ali Farokhmanesh, their head coach, he was doing the majority of the recruiting. So I got a great relationship with Coach Ali over there. So, you know, they're super well coached. They do a great job developing guys over there. But offensively, I think they have one of the better offenses in the league where, you know, it's a lot of back cutting. You got to stay under your man, be solid, you know, don't try to make home run plays. But, yeah, I mean, we just got to make sure that we pressure the quarterback. Don't let anything be easy for them. And, I mean, like I would say every single game, I mean, I'm confident in us, hoping we go and pull it out, play the best of our abilities. But, you know, it's a Mountain West Conference game, so it's going to be a tough one no matter what. Just hope that Viejas is sold out. We haven't been in Viejas since I think, New Mexico. So, you know, just trying to make sure that we're super active and put on a show for the fans.
Students back, obviously. Big game. Yeah, hopefully a great atmosphere tomorrow night at VA House Arena. All right, I'm going to have you choose a number. You pick a number between, let's say, 1 and 15. That caller isn't winning tickets for tomorrow, but for your next home game against Wyoming. Throw in a number between 1 and 15, and that caller is going to win tickets for the Wyoming game next week.
Let's go old Reese Waters, since that was the topic. We'll go 14. Caller 14.
I love it. Okay, caller 14 to 877-767-4760 has 2 free tickets to next week's home game against Wyoming. Miles, appreciate you taking so much time for us. We will see you tomorrow night at VA House Arena.
Perfect. Always thankful, John. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Miles Bird, outstanding redshirt junior guard for the Aztecs. Again, joining us here on San Diego Sports 760. Lines are lit. 877-767-4760. I want to react to that on the other side. We are here until 6. We'll get you ready for that Aztec big game against Colorado State tomorrow. Coming up next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, back with you. San Diego Sports 760. Great to connect with Miles Bird. Yeah, just terrific to connect with Miles Bird. Big game tomorrow night against Colorado State. Again, we gave away those tickets for next week against Wyoming. So be with us this week. We've got some tickets to give away again for next week's home game against Wyoming. Can we just take a moment to look at where the Aztecs are and look at the league standings? Because we're at the halfway point, but like Brent said this the other day, and I completely agree. It's like, wow, the season's flying by. Now in Mountain West play, we're about at the halfway point. San Diego State is alone in first place in the Mountain West. Now you could argue the second half of their schedule is harder than the first half because they still would play Utah State twice and New Mexico once on the road and at Boise State in the second half. And I think Boise certainly is going to be improving, if not fully improved by the time the Aztecs face them in a couple of weeks. It's actually over a month. But the point is the point. And honestly, the further point is, and this is crying over spilled milk, is the Aztecs should be 9-0 in the league. I'm sorry. They just should be. Now, there's nothing we can do about it. But, if not for what was just a bad call, I'm sorry. It was just a bad call. In Phoenix, they'd be 9-0. But John, what if they would have made free throws? Well, but John, what if they just would have called the play properly? So neither here nor there. They're 8-1 in the league, which is a game better than Utah State and New Mexico. I like to sometimes step outside what's going on in the league and just look at what San Diego State is doing more globally. And the Aztecs are producing a pretty good resume right now. They just are. Now, again, it's game to game. It's a tenuous situation when you're not in the SEC and you don't have a chance to pick up a home game against Kentucky or Tennessee or Texas A&M. It's harder because you're asked to not be perfect, but you're asked to not lose games you quote unquote shouldn't lose. And then you got to pick off teams like Utah State or New Mexico along the way. And of course, they've already beaten New Mexico at home. But I look at the metrics, and I think the metrics are fine. I think it's where you'd want the Aztecs to truthfully be. Honestly, and I don't have last year on this date compared to today, but it's very comparable. If not, San Diego State might be in a little bit better standing, which is insane because the Aztecs last year beat Houston and Creighton last year. But they're not worse off, certainly, than they were a season ago. Now, could they still use some marquee statement resume building wins? Yeah. Now, are they going to have a million opportunities for that? Maybe not, but maybe that's Utah State at home. Maybe that's at Utah State as soon as Saturday in a nationally televised game, or maybe that's at the Pit, New Mexico. Again, these are hard games, whether it's Utah State at home or at Utah State at New Mexico, CSU at home. You just heard from Miles Bird. He's like, it's a conference game. It'll be a dogfight. It'll be a good game. I agree with that. Colorado State, don't be fooled by their record. They've gotten healthier, elite three-point shooting team, elite offense. You're going to have to, really score with Colorado State. And we'll see if they can do that come tomorrow night. But if they win tomorrow, San Diego State, you're at the turn, so to speak. You're halfway home in the Mountain West, and you're 9-1. And it's hard to ask for much more than that. I think even heading into the year. I mean, I don't know what your expectations were for the Aztecs, and I know they were high if you're an Aztec fan, but asking for more than 9-1, I mean, it's hard to be perfect in any league in the country. So they're shooting for 9-1 tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens from there. Is Magoon Guath's health a part of the story here? Yeah, I think it is. I mean, Magoon Guath heading into the year was expected to be one of the key, tenets of the team. I mean, this was a really impactful piece. And I think at times he has been that player. And even coming off the knee and now dealing with a hip, if you just look at the sheer numbers, the numbers stick out on paper. Listen to this for Magoon Guath. 18 minutes, 18.4 minutes, 9.2 points. So he's scoring a half point a minute, which means if he was playing 30 minutes, he'd score 15 points on that average. He's averaging a block and a half, and he's shooting 57% from the floor and 58% from three. So for everyone telling me, oh, he's been such a disappointment and, I had such high expectations. Well, here's the thing. You just want him healthy, because when he's healthy and out there, he's impacting a game at both ends because of his just innate ability to score on offense. And that's what it is. 57% shooting and 58% from three. And for a 7-footer, that's really impressive. And he scores everywhere. His 15-foot game, his mid-range game, at the rim, and his ability to shoot the three. And then on defense, it's just his sheer presence is going to impact the game. So they need to get him back. I think to reach the true ceiling, they need to get him back. I don't know what his status is come tomorrow. I think Brian Dutcher was quoted maybe by Marcus saying it would be unlikely for a game as soon as tomorrow. Hopefully they get him back at some point sooner rather than later. I think even without Magoon, you're seeing San Diego State still play well. I thought they played well enough in Phoenix, arguably had to earn the win. They certainly played well enough in Las Vegas. They started the game 0 for 6, and after that, I think they shot 65% as a team from the floor and ended up shooting 57 or 58% overall. So they have the pieces, they have the depth that has been their strength. They have players that are emerging and playing some of their better basketball right now. I'm talking about Miles Bird. I think Reese Dixon Waters would qualify. Taj DeGorville, Tay Simmons. Like there's a lot. Farrell Compton, I think, has played very well here recently. So like you have the players, you have the pieces, you have the depth, and now can you hit your true ceiling in the second half of the year? And that begins again tomorrow night against Colorado State at Viejas Arena. That's a 7:30 start, by the way. Ben Fletcher will have pregame coverage at 6:30. The rare 7:30, Brent. We've had a lot of 7s over the years, a lot of 8s. We haven't had a million 7. Every once in a while, we'll stumble into a 7:30. I don't know what the game is before it. I don't know the network. I should. I'm sure Richard is listening right now, yelling at his radio because he's already sent out the notes. But 7:30. Hold on. Let me tell you what network this is on.
It's either FS1 or CBS Sports Network.
That's correct. And it will be on FS1, which makes sense because CBS Sports gives us more of the 7 and 8s. So FS1 will give us a 7:30 start tomorrow for the Aztecs and the Rams. By the way, last year against Colorado State, Miles Bird went off against Nick Clifford at home, if you remember that game. Miles Bird outplayed Nick Clifford, who's now in the NBA with the Kings, last year against Colorado State. All right, we're going to take a timeout. The wrap is on the other side coming up at 4 p.m. We have San Diego Seals tickets to give away in the 4 o'clock hour as well. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. The Aztecs are back at home at VS Arena tomorrow night to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage will start at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7:30. In NFL news, Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He failed to get the required amount of votes to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. In other NFL news, Bills promoted their offensive coordinator Joe Brady to the head coaching spot. He signed a 5-year deal today. And breaking news just about half an hour ago, the Broncos have fired their offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi after the AFC title game loss. If you have questions about youth or high school sports, Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA delivers better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. Info at positivecoach.org.
All right, hour 3 here. John Schaefer, Brent Sperry, San Diego Sports 760. We'll give away some San Diego Seals tickets this hour. Seals, professional indoor lacrosse right here in San Diego. They have Heroes Night Friday at Pechanga. Tickets and information at sealslax.com. That's sealslax.com. If you miss Miles Bird, you'll hear that conversation again in the 5 o'clock hour as well. So, there's a lot to get to over the next 2 hours. We started the show by talking about AJ Preller's future. The Bill Belichick news at this hour with him not being a first ballot Hall of Famer. So a lot to react to over the next couple of hours. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Is tomorrow a must-win game for the Aztecs?
I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at this. I mean, not literally, because their season goes on, win or lose, and they could still make the NCAA tournament, win or lose. But there's, multiple ways to get to the NCAA tournament. I think from an at-large resume perspective, you want to win the game. You want to win every game, obviously, but I think it's one thing to lose a game to Utah State on the road or New Mexico on the road. At home, I don't know if you have to be perfect, but you might have to be close to perfect. And listen, I think Colorado State's a good team, but their metrics aren't near as good as San Diego State. So they're a dangerous team, a fully capable team. They're absolutely capable of winning a game. But from a resume, metric, perception standpoint, it's one of those games where you probably have to find a way to win it if you want to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large team. Again, I don't think it's the end-all. I'm not saying you can't lose at home to CSU and then rattle off 9 or 10 consecutive wins and change the equation. But the way I look at it right now, it's close to a must-win game from an at-large perspective for San Diego State. Next question.
Will the Bills win a Super Bowl with Joe Brady at head coach?
I mean, it would surprise me. I think Joe Brady's a really good young coach. Very good offensive coordinator. He's only 36. He's already on staff. He was there for 4 years. They obviously were successful, but not to the level that Bills fans are hoping for. It's hard to win a Super Bowl at the end of the day, and it's never been done in Buffalo. So I think the first question is will he lead the Bills to a Super Bowl? It's jury's out, just in general. And then from there, once they get back, are they going to be able to put all of the side story behind them? Remember, the story with the Bills is the 4 consecutive Super Bowl losses. I mean, that is the story of the franchise. So, I mean, maybe does he give him a better chance than Sean McDermott? Very arguably. But he's got a 5-year deal. I'm sure they'll be in the postseason a good amount under Joe Brady, and maybe 1 year they break through. But I don't know. I'm not sitting here like, oh, the Bills are a lock to win the Super Bowl now that they've hired Joe Brady. I mean, it's a fine hire. But I don't know. We'll see. Next question.
Who's going to be the Padres GM in 2027?
This really is becoming an interesting question. I mean, I still think I would give the edge to Preller over someone else, but it's no longer what I would have said it was in terms of percentages like months ago. I think a few months ago when they were in the postseason, I would have been like, yeah, there's like a 90% chance they'll beat their general manager in 2027. I wouldn't say that right now. It doesn't feel like there's a 90% chance that he'll be back at GM in 2027. I still think it's more likely than not, and hopefully we get some news on that maybe in the days ahead with spring training, pitchers and catchers reporting in the next couple of weeks. I think the Padres will meet with the media at some point in the second week of February, right after the Super Bowl. So we're getting closer. In fact, we're getting a lot closer. But I don't know. And if it's not AJ Preller, it's a blank canvas. I don't even know where they would turn. I think there's a lot of factors there. Who owns the team in 2027 if AJ Preller's not the GM? Is the ownership team still led by John Seidler when they're making the next hire, if they have to make another hire, or is it with the new ownership group? So I have no idea. I'm still leaning towards Preller being the GM in 2027, but not leaning as heavily as I was 3 or 4 months ago. Final question.
Why, oh, why was Bill Belichick not elected as a first ballot Hall of Famer?
You know, I honestly don't know. I mean, the outcry is really significant. Like, I'm seeing some of these tweets from like an Adam Schefter where he's like, people are calling for these like they want the votes released and they want people that didn't vote for him to potentially be off the committee. Patrick Mahomes saying insane. Don't even understand how this could be possible. Text from an NFL executive, this from Adam Schefter. The 10 plus people that didn't vote for Bill Belichick should be exposed. WTF. I think we know what that stands for. This is crazy. What else you got, bro?
JJ Watt. I can't be reading this right. This has to be some knockoff Hall of Fame or something. There's not a single world whatsoever in which Bill Belichick should not be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I mean, that's basically the universal take. There's not that many hot takes like, you know what? They got it right. Okay, so listen, was there drama over the course of his career? Yeah, he spent his entire life coaching in the NFL. So like, yeah, I mean, over 40 years, there are going to be things that arise, no pun intended with Luis, but who were talked about earlier. At the end of the day, 6 rings as a head coach, 2 as a coordinator, 333 wins, second to Don Shula. 170 something losses. He's winning at like a 667 clip or somewhere in there. I mean, what else could you possibly ask for? I'll make the point that I made earlier. Listen, have I loved the Jordan Hudson story? I'll be honest with you. No. Have I loved all the off-field stuff with North Carolina? Not really. It's been kind of bizarre. But do I think it has anything to do with his NFL credentials? No. Zip, zero, zilch. And it's completely unfair for anyone to use what's played out since he's left the NFL against him in his Hall of Fame candidacy.
I don't care if he went 0-13 at Carolina. This is for
what's have to do
this
with,
is for the NFL Hall of Fame. This isn't just, it's not like basketball to where like there's no real NBA Hall of Fame. It's just the basketball Hall of Fame. So you get lumped in there for college and pro. This is the NFL Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter how good or how bad he does in college. It's not relevant. It's not part of the resume. That doesn't, good or bad, it doesn't get included in the NFL Hall of Fame. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of, the deflate gate and the videotape practice thing and the 26-year-old girlfriend. I think it's a combination.
I do. And like when I read this Seth Wickersham article at ESPN that detailed his voting, he specifically referenced Spygate, Deflategate, which was forever ago. Not to excuse it. It's not like, well, something was a long time ago, so it doesn't matter. But come on, you're telling me that everything else that this man accomplished doesn't outweigh that?
Well, see, and this is where, if they do release like the votes and everything, this is where people might get called out on their bull crap is when Brady's eligible. You going to hold Brady to that same standard and go, oh, well, Deflate Gate, he was on that team and, we held it against Belichick. So now, are we going to hold it against Brady? They won't. They should.
I mean, they both, I would have told you 2 years ago, they're both squeaky clean enough. I mean, Brady, again, we've said this so many times with halls of fame. We're not judging the character of a man. I mean, it just, honestly, to me, it's irrelevant. We're judging accomplishments. How else can you? Somewhere a line needs to be drawn, and we're not going to draw it in like, well, they were in a bit of a moral quandary in 2004, and as a result, I've determined as a human voter that it's not good enough. You can't do that. This should solely be based on their accomplishments within the sport. It's not a hall of good people. It's a hall of fame for the sport. And by the way, by and large, Bill Belichick avoided all that. By and large, avoided all of that. I don't have a legitimate reason to keep him out. I really don't.
Well, and it's not like he had, what's his big scandal really? That
I guess it's
he's
the Flakegate, Spygate.
that, and he has a young girlfriend, and it's like he wasn't getting DUIs. He wasn't there's a plethora of other things that people get in trouble for in the NFL that he didn't get in trouble for any of that stuff. He was grumpy at press conferences and stuff like that, but there was nothing that really would be like, oh yeah, he wins, but he's a piece of what, because I just don't like. It's just like, no, it's just like he is what he is. I didn't think he was a bad guy. He just seemed grumpy all the time.
I mean, does this, like, do you go down the path now of like, okay, you have a 50-member voting block. There's 50 voters, okay? He needed 40 yeses. Was there almost like how political is this where you had one or two people that were against getting Bill Belichick in on the first ballot at least, and then all of a sudden it became a campaign like, hey, we'll vote for him in 2027, but not in 2026. Do you want to join us in this voting block to keep him out? It almost feels like if this was all done individually, he would definitely be in, but maybe there was some type of voting block that kept him from getting him. Right? Like, because how else did 50 people just get a ballot, not communicate in any way with anyone else? Like, think about that. So if 50 people just individually voted, had no communication with other voters, 10 plus people really voted no?
I want to know two things. One, I want to know how close was it? Did he just miss it by 2 votes? Was it 1 vote? I think that makes a difference in like the context of it, because just on face value, you're like, oh my God, he didn't make it in, and it feels like it was just overwhelming that he didn't get in. If he missed it by 1 or 2 votes,
it had to be 1 or 2.
That sort of thing
Had to be.
But that brings me to my second point, which Sammy brought up earlier. There was like 10 dudes and ladies probably that didn't vote. I know one of them was Peter.
Didn't vote at all?
That they skipped the voting this year, because in the ESPN article, if you look at it, it said that Peter King didn't vote this year.
Was that count as a no vote then?
Apparently.
Well, why wouldn't he vote?
I don't know.
Well, then you shouldn't have voting privileges.
That's kind of my point, is if this did come out to be like a 2 or 3 vote thing, and we had, upwards of around 10 people that didn't vote, that made a difference then.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. You know who I want to hear from? It's Tom Brady. I mean, everyone else is weighing in, and I don't know how Tom Brady uses social media. I'm not saying he has some like obligation to speak immediately, but he's a pretty public figure right now with Fox and appears on Colin Cowherd right here on 760. Of course, you hear him every weekend throughout football season on Fox as well. So, like, I'd be curious to hear from Tom Brady. I'd like to hear from Robert Kraft. I mean, again, certain things are arguable. This isn't arguable. And it's not even like I'm some massive Bill Belichick fan. I'm really not. Like, I just respect his accomplishments. I really do. And I'm not going to use UNC against him. I think that's the most ridiculous thing. This is Canton. I will not use. I don't care what happens at UNC this year or next year. To Brent's point, he can go 0-13. Go 13 again. I don't care. It's irrelevant to his Hall of Fame candidacy. He should absolutely be in it. And the fact that he's not on the first ballot is, again, a disservice to the Hall of Fame. It's just a bad look, a very bad look, in my opinion, for the Hall of Fame. All right, more on that. Your thoughts. I mean, 70470, you can start your message with the word team. That's 70470. Start it with the word team. We're here until 6. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we all remember that one teacher made a difference who believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Now's your chance to say thank you to Big Way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher. Powered by Donors Choose, nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Today's teacher of the day, Christy James, who teaches at San Diego High School. And we were told she devotes her time and energy to helping her students find a path that ultimately sees them graduate. Congrats to Christy. You're in the running to win $5,000 for your classroom. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. You remember me probably saying this at some point last year if you're a regular listener. But I made the point last year. I'm like, if Ethan Salas isn't careful, not that this matters, but we're going to look up, he's not going to be a top 100 prospect. Like, life comes at you quick when you're a prospect. You go from the number one prospect to out of baseball in 2 years. Can happen. Now, it's not the case with Ethan Salas, and hopefully his future is still bright, but ESPN publishes their top 100 list today. Now, Baseball America already had theirs. They had Salas in the top 100, I think at 90th. At one point, he was like top 10 in the sport, and he keeps falling back and back because he's been hurt, and he just hasn't hit at any point. He's still young. Well, Kylan McDaniel publishes his top 100 list today at ESPN.com, and there isn't a Padre on the list. The top 100 players in minor league baseball include no Padres. So, listen, I have excused that because of their desire to win at the major league level, which I much prefer over having 4 top 100 prospects. But this is going to be impactful twofold. In one way, you're not developing from within right now. You're not going to reap the rewards of your system in 2026, arguably in 2027, when you have no high-level prospects or very few high-level prospects in your organization. Not to say they don't have low-level prospects or can't, be fruitful over the next 2 or 3 years. But I think in the next year or so, that's less likely. So you have it from that perspective. And then what about your capital? When I hear the Padres in on players like C.J. Abrams, Jim Bowden wrote that today at The Athletic, and I'm like, well, how? They're competing with teams that have like 4 players in the top 100. So how are they going to land a player that's coveted like C.J. Abrams? So again, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world not to have a highly rated farm system, because it's not. I'd rather have a highly rated team at the major league level. It's nice to balance. It's nice when you can get your reserves from the minor leagues that can, bolster your chances during the season. And maybe that'll be the case with the Padres at some point in 2026. But Ethan Salas was given a lot of money, a lot of people saying his praises, and he's still a young player and still can benefit the Padres, hopefully. But crucial year for Ethan Salas, Brent, because if it's another year where he's injured or ineffective, I don't even know where you go in that story in 2027. And you don't really want to sell him off now because you're selling low. But then again, if you keep waiting, you might not be able to sell it all in a year or two with Ethan Salas. So it's an interesting time for Salas, and it's just an interesting time in general for the Padres, who have 0 top 100 prospects.
I don't know. I guess you kind of look at it like this, to where would you rather have them with, 5 players in the top 100 prospects, but we've missed the playoffs the last 4 years,
right? No,
because there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off with it. There's a reason why we don't have all those prospects and we don't have anyone in the top 100, because every year at the trade deadline, AJ trades them because we need something. So, like I said, there's a give and take with that, because we, if we're going to try and compete, we have to trade some of the prospects, or at least keep them. In AJ's case, he just likes to trade them, not so much keep them.
Which, again, I'm all for. So I can't on one hand be like, hey, I love the return you got for Leo DeVries, because you got Mason Miller. Like, I can't say, hey, I thought you had a really good trade deadline, and then truly months later be like, sold the farm for what? Because nobody has the benefit of hindsight in real time. When he made the moves he made August 1st, July 31st, he's shooting for a deep playoff run, as he should have been. We all widely, I mean, not everyone, but generally he was applauded for, quote unquote, going for it. So when it doesn't work out, is that on AJ Preller? And now all of a sudden you're going to blame him for turning away Leo DeVries when you didn't make a playoff run with Mason Miller? Well, you still have Mason Miller, thankfully. So again, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, see, I told you, you shouldn't have traded Leo DeVries. No, you didn't tell us anything, because what if the Padres beat the Cubs in game 3? Is your opinion changed? Does your tune change? So it's hard. I mean, these are positions that are hard. I much prefer the general manager that goes for it opposed to the one that's cautious and is fully building from within, and it's a 3 to 5 year plan. They did that. They did that with Preller, his first 3 to 5 years, and they had very little success. And then ultimately they went out in free agency, and the first big signing was Eric Hosmer. Didn't exactly pan out, but from there, Manny Machado, and a little bit of it is the rest is history. But I'd prefer this. I like high risk, high reward. I don't like just conservatively building from within, hoping to reap the rewards, 4 years from now. It's like nobody cares about the 2030 season right now. I care about 2 months from now.
Well, that's why baseball's kind of tricky compared to the other sports, because no other sport has the waiting period that baseball has.
Right.
If you draft top 5 in the NBA, that dude's going to start next year right away. There's not going to be any, okay, now we drafted you number 5. Now you're going to sit down in the G League for the next 3 years, and then we'll reevaluate you after that 3 years. And then maybe you'll be in the NBA, or who knows, maybe we'll cut you and you won't even ever play in the NBA. Baseball is the only sport that's like that. Look at you brought up East Salas, just how young he is.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you could trade him now because it seems like his stock is going down, but he's so young that who's to say, in a year from now,
100%.
he doesn't put on, 5-6 pounds of muscle or something like that, to where then all of a sudden he's like a different player, because he's just so young and he's got so much room to grow, and literally.
And catchers develop really slowly. I mean, you could trade him away in 2026 and he could be an all-star in 2031. And he could be a 4-time all-star from 2030 to 2034 or whatever. So it's hard, specifically with catchers. A toolsy catcher is tough. Oftentimes they're very good defensively, but they can't hit. Or maybe they can hit and they move them off catcher because they're not good at calling games or fielding their position, right? Or working with pitching staff. So to get it all in one player is a bit of a unicorn in today's baseball. And I do think they have time on Ethan Salas. But I mean, that doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to pan out. Just because he's young doesn't mean, well, trust me, he's young, he's going to pan out. Maybe. Or maybe he's young and he's not going to pan out. So I do think it's a big year for Salas, who last year played 10 games and hit 188. And the year before played 113 games and hit 206 with a 599 OPS. So basically for 2 years, he's done nothing, absolutely nothing. That to me tells me that 2026 is a massive year for Ethan Salas in the Padres organization. All right, we have San Diego Seals tickets to give away for Friday night at Pechanga Arena. We'll do that on the other side. Plus, if you missed our conversation with Aztec junior guard Miles Bird, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30. This is San Diego Sports 760. We are live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. San Diego State is back home at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7. In NFL news, the Bills promoted their offensive coordinator Joe Brady to the head coaching spot. He signed a 5-year deal with the team today. And the Broncos, they fired their offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi today after falling short of making it to the Super Bowl. And in the big news of the day, Bill Belichick is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did not get the required number of votes to make it so. For victims of drunk and drugged driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, we have San Diego Seals tickets for Friday night. We're going to give away. And if you miss Miles Bird, you'll hear our conversation coming up at 5:30. We always talk about it being a new world, Brent, in college athletics. You know, NIL, rev share, transfer portal, expanded playoff. I don't even know. Maybe an expanded NCAA tournament. Right? Everything's different. Conference realignment. The Big Ten is 18 teams. Make it make sense, right? Imagine if you had never heard of college football and you were coming over from Europe, and somebody tried to explain A, college athletics, and B, the Big Ten.
Well, even the Big 12 now.
All of them.
Big 12's got more than 12.
All of them. All of them. I mean, if the Pac-12 remains the Pac-12, it's not going to have 12 teams. When it relaunches, and it has 2 right now, and when it relaunches next year, it won't have 12 teams. So, okay, there's a lot of change. We get it. Are we comfortable with this change? Deion Sanders saying at the first team meeting for Colorado this year that if his players violate team rules, they will be fined. For example, late to practice, $500. Not showing up to practice, $2,500 fine. So it is a new world where, a little bit like professional sports, you're paid, right? I mean, that is the case. The Colorado scholarship athletes are going to be on a rev share. They're all going to be paid. But they're also kind of going through the trials and tribulations of college. They're 18 and 19, where you're learning about the consequence of your mistake. And I guess your consequence of a mistake now is financial. So is that even allowed? Is it cool in college? Can you, I guess if you're paying people, you can fine them too?
For me, the weird thing is the amounts. They just seem high. Those seem like, that's what you would find NFL players would get,
a couple $1,000,
500 or a couple thousand, not, essentially kids that, pre-NIL, could barely afford to eat a sandwich. And now you're going to charge them or fine them the same amount that you'd fine NFL players. And the majority of the bigger fines are for no showing stuff. So no show a meeting or a film session. That's,
who even does that?
$2,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my question, you'd think you would have to kind of have a sliding scale. Cause sure. If you're, the Buffalo's, starting quarterback, you're going to make more NIL money than everyone else on the team. So sure, $500 fine might not be squat to you, but if you're the, third string guard or something like that, you're not going to make that much money to where, a big fine like that could just, cripple you.
Yeah. So how about this? $2,500 for, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
$2,500 for a violation of team rules. To your point, even if you were getting $100,000 or $200,000, $2,500 of $100,000 is 2.5%. It's not nothing.
And that's each time too, which granted, it should only take one for these large fines.
Listen, you might be out there right now listening. Let's say you make $100,000. Good wage. $2,500 speeding ticket is a fortune of money. I don't care how much money you're making. And then how about this? $5,000 for social media misconduct. Who determines that? $5,000. Okay, it goes beyond that. Sanders also banned profanity outside the meeting room, and especially, is the words in this article, especially in the dining area because, quote unquote, we're not the only ones in the cafeteria. You need to be respectful. So I understand. Listen, I understand it. I understand the the point and the premise. But here's my other question: who's getting the money? Where is this going to the coffer? I don't hate the idea of using this for future NIL. Let's say you turn this into like 400 grand if you're Colorado, or like 200 grand. Do you pump that back into your team for the next year, or do the other players get it? But I don't know if that's a first or not, but I guess they're not messing around. I mean, Colorado's coming off a really bad year, aren't they?
Yeah, they only won like 3 games last year, I think.
So he's had sandwiched between the good year, which was the year that Travis Hunter won the Heisman. He's had a couple of down years in there, right? Sandwiched between that good was his first year, and now this third year that he's just. I would say it's a big year for Deion Sanders in general at Colorado. I'm not saying he needs the job. I mean, he'll be fine without the job, but it feels like a year where Colorado probably needs to take a step forward again, would be my guess. I don't know if he would be in jeopardy if that doesn't happen, but it seems like he might be.
I don't know. I still feel like he's still generating a lot of
interest
and revenue.
Buzz, yeah.
He's still selling tickets just because he's Deion. I think it's kind of funny too with like the profanity thing, and just some of it's just like common sense stuff to where it's just like, oh, we're gonna fine you $200 if you don't say please and thank you, and it's just like, well, okay, it's just like, so pretty much just be a human being and just don't walk around and be a jerk and you won't get fined. He also is fining people. So say if you came in the transfer portal from Rutgers or something, right, Deion better not catch you wearing your Rutgers sweatpants.
Well, I respect that.
You like. Yeah, sure, to a certain extent. Don't be at your locker post game wearing your Rutgers hat or something like that. But if you're just sitting around at home, I don't know. I think that's kind of.
I mean, in the
weird
facility. I mean, listen, if I got traded from the Patriots to the Raiders, don't like wear your Patriots stuff around. I mean, I think it's the same thing in the facility. Listen, we're in this world where now you have players that have played in 4 different schools in 4 years, and that's commonplace. But like, I'm sure the day you arrive, Colorado's going to supply you with some, outerwear. Like they're gonna outfit you from Nike or whomever, and from that point forward, we don't need to see you in your Miami Hurricanes backwards hat. Like that doesn't make any sense. So I do respect that. I guess here's the point I would make in general. We're in this time where it's like, without a lot of rules, it's interesting to see how teams are writing their own. Because that's really where we are. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, an egregious example, an extreme example would be like Alabama and Charles Bediako, this center that's playing for them. I mean, they're writing their own rules. They went to a judge and got an injunction to allow him to play. He spent 3 years in the G League. The judge is a $100,000 booster to the University of Alabama. So like, and guess what? Alabama is not going to be fined, subjected to sanction or penalty. We're just creating our own rules. Now, that takes you anywhere. I mean, whether it's Deion finding players or Alabama playing someone that doesn't even technically, I guess, have eligibility. He needed an injunction to be playing right now. And from there, there's so many other rules that are just being written as we go. And I think it's at some point, it all goes back to this for me. Somebody come up with a set of rules that people can play by. Because when you have no rules, it's just kind of a little bit of insanity. And I don't think it's good for anyone. I don't think it's good for the Ohio States and the Alabamas in football. I don't think it's good for the Kentuckys and Kansases in basketball. I've seen Kentucky's head coach outspoken about this situation with Alabama. We've seen Clemson's head coach, Dabo Swinney, outspoken about the transfer portal window. This is the top of the sport. Kentucky basketball, Clemson football, and there they are saying, what are we doing? What are we doing? Someone get a grasp of it. And they can't, because it's state to state, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There's no federal laws that have been mandated as of yet. There's no CBA. There's no employment status for these athletes. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, listen, am I still going to watch college football and college basketball? Yeah, I absolutely love both of those sports. And I think by and large, you look at the TV ratings, they're really good. You look at the NCAA tournament, of course, it's one of the most popular sporting events in America. But is some of this getting in the way of your sheer enjoyment of these sports? I think a lot of people would tell you, yeah, they just want a set of checks and balances. And we're not really getting there right now, obviously.
Yeah, there's nothing federal yet.
Nothing yet, but it's been a long time now.
Well, I don't think that the NCAA will do it themselves. That's why I think that eventually at some point, I think the government's going to kind of step in like they have done in, sports before and just kind of say, look, this is getting out of control. We need some sort of regulations. We can't just let you guys just, run roughshod and just do whatever you want because there's no rules. And because I don't think they'll do it on their own. I think if it's just left, as it is, they'll just keep going the way it goes until somebody forces their hand.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's where we are. And we're in this like world where we're kind of making it up as we go. Yet pretending like we're not. We're watching these games like, oh, it's college basketball. Well, yeah, but college basketball's changed a lot over the last 5 years. Or, oh, it's college football. Yeah, but college football has changed a lot over the last handful of years. I am curious to see where the Colorado story goes just in terms of are they bouncing back or not under Deion Sanders? And how much longer is he going to be head coach at the University of Colorado?
I'm kind of surprised he didn't bolt just because his kids weren't there anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you need it? And the answer obviously is no for Deion Sanders. All right, we'll give away those Seals tickets on the other side. We'll get back to the Padres at the top of the hour. Are the Padres and AJ Preller at an impasse? If you missed what Kevin Acey had to say about that, you'll hear it coming up at 5 p.m. Plus Miles Bird on the show, San Diego State junior guard. If you missed it earlier, you'll hear our conversation with Miles Bird at 5:30. We have San Diego Seals tickets to give away coming up next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, back with you. We'll give away these Seals tickets in a moment. Seals Friday night, Pechanga Arena, indoor lacrosse. Tickets at sealslax.com. Two things. So I ordered, we have these Girl Scout cookies in the office that are like benefiting, someone's
Girl Scouts.
Yeah, Girl Scouts, someone's daughter. And the way we were supposed to, it's like kind of the honor system. It's like you can either give the person $6 or you can use a QR code and then like put in your credit card information. So initially I went over looking for a person I was looking for, and I didn't find her at her desk. So then I'm like, I feel bad because I've taken these Girl Scout cookies. I haven't paid for them. Then I did the QR code at the last break, but I'm still filling it out. So I'm not done with the order as of yet. But I asked my wife, I'm like, do you want a box of whatever these are? I used to call them Samoas, but they're now Caramel Delights.
See, I've learned since I moved out here that Girl Scout cookies have regional names because you can buy, you can get some. They're like, I like the peanut butter sandwiches or whatever they call them, but there's certain ones they'll call them peanut butter sandwiches, and then they have other ones they're called like peanut butter sandies, and then they have the other peanut butter one that's like the chocolate covered one. Sometimes they call those they have a different name because it's like they have different names depending on where you go.
Is this like a Carl's Jr. thing? Because aren't there
Hardee's
Carl's Jr. depending on where you are in the country?
Yeah.
That's
Midwest is
basically
Hardee's.
Yeah, and then it's Carl's Jr. out here.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Anyway, I'm good for these. I just need to fill out my form online, is my point. And then I thought, once I'm doing it online, do I buy more than one box? I feel like one's good enough.
Unless they changed it, they don't like charge
There's no fee.
Yeah, so if there was like, oh, here's a quarter fee to do this online, then I'd say buy a couple boxes. But yeah, they don't do that. I don't think.
All right. So anyway, I've got the Girl Scout cookies. We'll give away the San Diego Seals tickets again coming up. You just mentioned to me off air that ESPN listed the top 100 college football games of the year.
Yes.
Does any Aztec game make the list?
Yeah, believe it or not, we cracked the top 40.
All right. So what game made the top? San Diego State makes the top 40 in what game?
It was the game against New Mexico.
Oh, that heartbreaker.
The double overtime game.
Yeah. So that was the final regular season game where if the Aztecs won it, they would have hosted the Mountain West Championship. If they lost it, they were out in the end. We didn't know that at the time if they would be out or not. Both of those teams were out. Both were alive heading into the day, and both of those teams failed to reach the Mountain West Championship when San Diego State lost to New Mexico in double overtime 23-17. What do they write about this game?
It says needing an upset to claim a share of the lead in the Mountain West and wearing gorgeous turquoise uniforms that have become the talk of social media. New Mexico got touchdown runs of 40 yards from James Lobstein and 54 yards from DJ McKinney. It was just enough to force overtime at 17-17. Once in overtime, an interception set the Lobos up for a potential winning score, but Lobstein lost a fumble. No worries. Cade Keith caught a 25-yard touchdown pass to start the second OT. And after San Diego State set up for a 1st and goal, the Aztecs moved straight backward and failed on 4th and forever.
So there's your the ending of that game was crazy.
Yeah, because remember they got a false start, and then they got more than one false start, didn't they?
I think there were 3 in a row.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 in a row. Yeah, it was I'll remember that game honestly is I want to say there was an interception overturned on a pass interference. Remember that? Early in the 4th quarter. It was like this clear as day interception. Like, no, pass inter. And that was a big part of the game. But okay, so one of the top 40 games of the college football season last year was San Diego State and New Mexico. I thought you told me there was a top 100 list. I thought it was here are the top 100 games to look forward to. But yeah, these were the top 100 games of last year. What was the number one game?
The national championship game, which I don't agree with that. It was
a good game.
It was, but off the top of my head, I thought it would have been like Indiana, Penn State. Because remember that dude had that amazing, catch right at the horn, and his foot was in, and his probably one of the top 3 catches of the entire season. I thought it would have been that. Number 2 was the Miami Ole Miss game. Made number 2. What was 3? Ole Miss Georgia in the quarterfinals. Let's see, Texas A&M Notre Dame on September 13th was 4th in the top 5. Montana State and Illinois State.
Yeah, that's the thing with lists like that. Like they're going to include.
There's a lot of games like that. Yeah.
But again, I mean, if you watch the Aztecs this past year, you saw a team that again did a complete 180 from the year before. I mean, obviously they're not going to be in the top 100 list 2 years ago when they won just 3 games. But all of a sudden, last year, remember that day they were in Albuquerque, they are playing for a 10th win also, right? I mean, they were in the midst of a 9-2 year at the time when they got to Albuquerque. I mean, they were really, it was a very good year. Yes, you didn't get that statement end of season win to appear in a Mountain West Championship game. And then, of course, they ended up losing that ridiculous game back at Albuquerque. You talk about a top 100 game, put that on the list. That bowl game was ridiculous, right? There were like 100 combined points in that game. The difference was 2 points in the end. So that's a top 100 game for me. But yeah, San Diego State's last 2 games are losses in Albuquerque. I don't know if the Aztecs football team is ever playing in Albuquerque again because New Mexico is staying in the Mountain West and San Diego State is heading for the Pac-12. Now, basketball will go there in February. San Diego State's going to play at New Mexico in later this year, obviously at the Pit at New Mexico. It's which leads us down another path, which is like it's going to be interesting to see like what series remain from a San Diego State perspective, like on the basketball side. Like a UNLV, I think John Rothstein has written and others, Marcus Healer wrote this past week, like that UNLV series is going to remain, but something like the Pit against New Mexico, that's probably not going to remain. Why? Well, because New Mexico plays at elevation and San Diego State doesn't really need to add extra games at elevation. They're already going to play a couple in the new Pac-12 and they're playing teams like Colorado State and Utah State. Football, I mean, same thing. It's like, what series are you content with keeping or makes sense? Like, does it make sense to keep playing Hawaii? Well, the answer is yes. They already announced a home and home with Hawaii later this decade. Does it make sense to play UNLV in football or San Jose State? It'll be interesting. But some of these series are basically going to be cut off completely. Like, if you're a big San Diego State, Wyoming basketball guy, I got news for you. You might not see a lot of San Diego State against Wyoming in basketball because the Aztecs ain't going to Laramie. Therefore, you're not going to see those 2 teams play at any point in the near
darn,
future.
I'll miss their extremely colorful uniforms of brown and yellow.
So, but it's just, but for every Wyoming, San Diego State that we won't see, we'll start seeing Aztec Zags, for example, in basketball or in football. You're going to see every time you don't see San Diego State take on New Mexico in football, you'll see them taking on Washington State or Oregon State in football. So that's coming down the pipe here.
And those are all upgrades.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was kind of the point, I think, of the move overall. All right. Promised you a pair of tickets to see the San Diego Seals on Friday for Heroes Night at Pechanga Arena. Tickets and info at sealslax.com. Caller 3. You have 2 free tickets to see the Seals this weekend at Pechanga Arena, professional indoor lacrosse. If you haven't been, it is a great, great family atmosphere and experience. 877-767-4760. Call right now. Caller 3. You have 2 free tickets to see the San Diego Seals Heroes Night Friday at Pechanga Arena. Tickets and info at sealslax.com. 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear from Kevin Acee on the impasse between the Padres and AJ Preller. Is an extension looming or not? Plus, you're going to hear from Miles Bird at 5:30. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by unbound.org. The Aztecs are back home at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will start at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7:30. In NFL news, the Bills promoted their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to the head coaching spot today. They signed him to a 5-year deal. And the Broncos fired their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, after falling short of making it to Super Bowl 60. And in the news of the day, Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He failed to receive the required amount of votes to be a first ballot. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, Miles Bird, if you missed our conversation with the Aztec junior guard, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30. We're here until 6. We do have Aztec Hoops tomorrow at 7:30 with pregame coverage at 6:30 p.m. Now, we started the show, and Brent, you have this, the Kevin Acee sound. We started the show with what Kevin Acee told us yesterday. This was Kevin Acee with us yesterday discussing the latest. Remember, AJ Preller is only under contract through this season. Here's the latest from Kevin Acee.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know I have some idea of where these talks are at. A little bit of an impasse. There's a lot going on with the team. AJ Preller is a commodity that has some, he's got some negotiating power, and I don't think he's just going to take anything from the Padres. So maybe it's a little more, I know this, it's a little bit more difficult than they anticipated getting it done, but that doesn't mean it won't get done. My understanding is that they expect it to. Now, hey, like I said, AJ Preller, man, for whatever, there's not a lot of guys who've done what he's done, and there are people in the league that are like, this guy could, give this guy some resources and watch him go. And so there is a little leverage there for AJ Preller.
A little leverage there for AJ Preller, which, if you've been listening to this show, you've heard me say a lot here recently about the position that AJ Preller is in. A little leverage there for AJ Preller. I made the point earlier when Sammy Long was here that in professional sports, it's pretty black, white, zero sum. Like, you either cut ties or you extend. That's basically the nature of professional sports. You don't typically play out the string. And the Padres have put themselves in a really awkward position with AJ Preller. Maybe it's resolved in the coming days before spring training, and it's all resolved, and it's not something that we spend a lot of time on in 2026, or maybe it isn't. I think they had an option at the end of this postseason, which goes back to October 2nd of 2025. If you felt like you had a better option, then you cut ties. Simple as that. So what if he has a year on his deal? Who cares? It's professional sports. You're going to keep him around because of the money? That makes no sense. And then if you've now waited it off all this long and you've expressed an interest to extend him, and for whatever reason he hasn't signed the piece of paper, you got to do better with your offer. If you expect AJ Preller to lead your organization into the future, don't get caught up in semantics. Don't worry about 500,000 here or $1 million there, and don't worry about a 2-year extension as opposed to a 3-year one. It is basically as simple as that. If you didn't want him here, you should have let him go at the end of the postseason, which to me didn't make a lot of sense, coming off the Mason Miller trade and getting rid of Leo DeVries and getting to the postseason for back-to-back years and 90+ wins. At the time, we thought Mike Schilt maybe would be back October 2nd. All right, so that was one option though. If you want to change direction with your organization, all right, that's your right to do. And then beyond that, now that they've said publicly they want him back, then why haven't you gotten it done? Well, it's in AJ's court. Well, sweeten the offer. I mean, how did you, that's how this works. I mean, in free agency, you really want Michael King, offer him more money, give him another year. Maybe that's how they got him. Maybe 3 years, 75 was as good of a deal as Michael King was seeking. How did they land Manny Machado? They were the highest bidder. So, not that this is identical, but I think there's something to be said for what's the saying? Play dumb games, win dumb prizes. Don't get cute. Don't get cute. If you think AJ Preller is part of your future, he needs to be extended. And if you don't, then you should have gotten rid of him 4 months ago, and that's on you. So the organization, again, some of it is like you're exploring a sale. So I'm sure Preller wants to know the future direction. And before the sale even happens, the organization is being run by someone that had no interest in doing this. Now, have I heard that directly from John Seidler? No, but that's not my fault because he hasn't spoken publicly in any regard. So it's not my fault. I have to speculate because he's not going to speak for himself. I have to speculate.
Well, the fact that he hasn't spoken is our answer right there.
That's all you need to know. And this is fine. He doesn't have to be Peter Seidler. To each their own, right? Just because Peter Seidler wanted to own a baseball team doesn't mean his brother John wanted to own a baseball team. He was thrust into this position. Unfortunately, Peter passed, had an untimely passing. We didn't expect it. I guess nobody really expects it, but sometimes you do to some extent. It was unexpected. And then the organization was in flux for about a year. Eric Katsenda, remember that? Representing ownership for a year. And now John Seidler obviously has been in that role. And now the Padres are exploring a sale. So it's an interesting time. I'm not putting it all on John Seidler. But you could tell when we heard from Eric Krupner yesterday. Do we have that, Brent, by chance? Eric Krupner? We don't have to if you don't. But I mean, Eric Krupner talking to Marty yesterday. This actually, we played the sound yesterday, but it came from an event on Sunday. He didn't really want to talk about it, which to me sounds like the Padres maybe have made their, I don't know, best and final offer to Preller, and they're still waiting for him to sign it. Maybe it's sitting on his desk. This was Eric Krupner. Again, Marty Caswell provides the audio. She was at this Miracle League event in San Diego. She caught up with Eric Krupner.
Yeah, talks continue. Nothing new. Same comment that has been made multiple times before. Yeah. Thanks.
So that was very abrupt and short, and that ended the conversation. Talks continue. Interesting, right? I mean, this is longer than the Paris Accord. I don't know what the Paris Accord is. I mean, talks. Again, in professional sports, coaches are hired and fired within 24 hours. There's a Black Monday, and then they make a hire a day later. There was in college football, I want to say Penn State hired, what was his name from Iowa State? They made the hire the same day, though, Iowa State. The day they got rid of their head coach, Matt Campbell, went from Iowa State to Penn State. Iowa State backfilled with Washington State's head coach the same day. So you can't tell me that talks continue like this is some peace treaty that's going to play out over 120 days. I mean, wars have ended in quicker fashion than this extension has played out. So I want resolution. That's all. I just want to know the direction. I think that's how Padres fans feel. I hate open-endedness. We get a lot of that with the Padres. It's just open-ended. Do they have money or do they not have money? Did Darvish retire or did he not retire? Is Preller going to be back after 2026 or is he not? Are they selling the team or not? Are they going to maintain the payroll over the luxury tax number or not? Again, some of this is outside of their control, truthfully. And I give them credit. I mean, they're highly competitive in the space. They're spending a good amount of money considering the market. They don't have the TV, yada, yada, yada. Same old story, same old story. At the end of the day, people want to see them win. You also want to see, I think, some of the questions answered, I guess. And that goes with their on-field as well. Like, I want to know who's going to complete this rotation. I want to know what the infield is going to look like. I want to know what their bench is going to look like. We have time. They don't have to do it right now. Me and Jim would have these conversations every year, and Jim would always be like, they don't have a left fielder. I'm like, well, the season doesn't start today. They're not going to go out there with a lineup of 8. They're going to play 9. I promise you that. So that there is time, and their roster is not complete. And I still like their core. And I believe in what they're doing in general, the back-to-back 90-win season. So again, I'm more in the corner of AJ Preller than not in it. And I've made that point obsessively, I think, over the last 2 years. I don't put game 4 of the 2024 NLDS on AJ Preller when they got shut out by the Dodgers. I don't put game 5 on AJ Preller. I just put it on Preller to get him there and give him a shot. And I think they had a shot in both 2024 and 2025. Is it AJ Preller's fault that King slept wrong and Darvish's elbow is injured? Is it Preller's fault that they couldn't close out a 2-1 lead over the Dodgers in 2024. I just don't think that's fair. I would much prefer to give them credit for putting them in that position than casting blame that they didn't, complete the mission, so to speak. But they still have enough of those pieces back to be in position in 2026. Now, again, could they use the Darvish money? Absolutely. We talked to Kevin Acey about that yesterday. If you missed that conversation, you should check it out at sportssd.com. It's on YouTube as well. Just search for Jon and Jim 760, even though Jim doesn't work here anymore. So I found that to be an insightful conversation. I mean, Kevin yesterday, he was, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was almost somewhat apologetic for some of the word choice he used in his article about Darvish. He called it a retirement. He said with the benefit of hindsight, he wouldn't have done that. But he was confident in his reporting that Darvish was going to void the contract. There'd be some type of buyout or settlement. The Padres would get a portion, if not close to all of that money back. They could then take that money, potentially put it into their team in 2026 and beyond. So that part of it remains significant. The semantics of whether he retired or not is probably for another day. That certainly matters for you, Darvish. And I know Kevin wanted to get that right. And from what he had said yesterday, he felt bad about how that whole process played out, but he sticks by his reporting, which is the contract will be nullified, voided, and the Padres will get salary relief, which they desperately need. But another open-ended question: when, how much? And that's just kind of the story of the offseason. It really has been a quiet. I mean, the biggest stories of the offseason, and there isn't really a close second to these two, is Padres exploring sale, AJ Preller's future. Sorry, Michael King's 3-year deal is not comparable to the Padres exploring a sale and AJ Preller's future. I'm happy the King is back. Look at the fine print. It's a 1-year deal. He's back in a 1-year deal for $25 million, coming off an injury. I hope he returns to the 2024 form or the first half of 2025. But the biggest two stories are these open-ended questions. It's about ownership now and moving forward. It's about who is leading baseball operations now and moving forward. And those are the stories that are going to follow the Padres until we get some resolution. More questions are coming. I promise you that. When the Padres meet with the media in Peoria in a couple of weeks, right after the Super Bowl, I mean like a day or two after the Super Bowl, those questions are coming unless this gets resolved. The ownership piece will not get resolved. Preller's future may get resolved, but if it doesn't, those questions are coming, obviously, in early to mid-February. All right, Miles Bird, if you missed our conversation with the Aztec standout junior guard, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30. Plus, coming up on the other side, 3 Aztecs preparing for Torrey Pines this weekend here in San Diego. So we can discuss that as well. We have Brent's Back Page coming up. We're here until 6. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. Miles Bird, if you missed our conversation, coming up at 5:30 in just over 10 minutes. We have the Farmers Open, obviously here in San Diego this weekend. Actually going to go on Sunday because I got it as a holiday gift. I'm going with my father-in-law and 6-year-old son. Is Jones going to be into that? Let me answer that.
I was going to ask you, he's a big golf fan.
No, and he's going to be complaining and asking for food, I feel like, which I might be doing the same thing, honestly.
You got to tell him, wait until they get right on their backswing, and then he yell, "It's in the hole!"
Yeah, exactly. So
teach him to be one of those guys.
I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be with my father-in-law and Jones, and it should be a fun Sunday. But anyway, we may have a chance to see not one, not two, but 3 former Aztecs play at the Farmers Insurance Open. Xander Schauffele is in the field. JJ Spawn, who had just a terrific year. And then Justin Hastings, who was on the Aztecs last year and was one of the top amateur players in the country. They've all committed to this event, which gets underway on Thursday. So, first of all, you're talking about some of the best golfers in the world. They didn't just happen to go to San Diego State. I mean, Xander Schauffele is a top 5 golfer in the world rankings right now. So he's played incredibly well. You've got Spawn, who's the reigning U.S. Open champion, who's played incredibly well. And you've got Hastings, who had as good of a season as an Aztec has had. A couple of wins last year for San Diego State, a team that was in the NCAA tournament last year. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'd love to see one of those players in contention, if not multiple players from San Diego State in contention come Sunday. You shared an article. I just saw that Sean Payton saying it was a matter of when, not if, on Bo Nix's broken ankle. He was predisposed to it due to a condition, and there was an inevitability to it, which is interesting because of the way football is with physicals. I think just professional sports in general with physicals, you'd think that could almost be something that would disqualify Bo Nix from being drafted. Now, on one hand, he's been obviously very good. I mean, he was in an AFC divisional game this year, would have been the title game if not for the broken ankle. On another hand, that's kind of interesting to hear, isn't it, Brent, that this was an inevitability. He didn't just break his ankle. He was going to break his ankle at some point moving forward.
Yeah, and they said that in the article that I guess he had numerous ankle surgeries when he was in high school. And, this is stuff that typically, obviously the Broncos knew about all this stuff before they drafted him, but this is usually stuff to where it's if they found out afterwards, this would be a big scandal.
Yeah, the fact that right,
he left that out there, but I don't know. I'm just shocked that they still drafted him because in this day and age, if you had a high ankle sprain your sophomore year in high school, some of these guys would go, "Oh, he's a risk right there because he did that and he did it once, it'll happen again." For them to just be no, it's not an if, it's a when, because Peyton, I can't find now, but in one part of the article, he explains about how, every time they go in and look at his ankle, they find something new or they learn something new.
Yeah,
it's
I saw that.
Sean, that's not really a good thing.
Well, on one hand, you've got, he was taken 12th overall. So to your point, the physical is going to matter a lot. This is a big investment. On the other hand, they're 24-10 with him as starter. 24-10. Including 14-3 this past year. So, this was I think a pretty good investment. I think in the long term, they're pretty optimistic that this might resolve some of the issues moving forward. But, I was thinking to myself after, Stidham started and the Broncos, failed to win the AFC championship, are they going to be back? Because whenever you think about the AFC, you always look at it through the lens of Mahomes, Jackson, Allen. Now we see what's going on with New England. Herbert, but again, that's maybe that's wishful. I'm sure Chargers fans want to see it. He still hasn't won a playoff game, but is this going to be an aberration or the norm? Are we going to see Denver in 2 of the next 5 AFC title games, or is this their last AFC title game appearance of the decade? For example, I think they have a good quarterback, not young. I mean, Bo Nix was drafted as a 24-year-old, so he'll be 26 next year. But they have a good quarterback. They put together a very good year, obviously. But is that the expectation moving forward, or is this going to be seen as more of an aberration? I think it might be more of an aberration, honestly. Well, you have Sean Payton. You got a quarterback. You have a good defense.
I don't know. I think they're on the start of something because they've kind of been slowly building up for the last couple years. Everyone's kind of jumping on the Broncos train because first there was their defense and everything else, and if they can get any form of offense going, they could be dangerous. And every year they just keep getting a little bit better, and they keep improving and improving. And you said they have a good coach, so I think it could happen because I think we might start to see not so much like a changing of the guard, but
balancing.
Yeah. Where it's going to be more balanced. Where opposed, doing like a number scale. The Chiefs and the Bills were like 8s and 9s, and the Broncos and everyone else was like a 5 or a 6. Now they're kind of more. They're within like a one number like ranking. I think.
Honestly, to your point, and maybe it's more of like a parody conversation. The more I watch the NFL, specifically this postseason, the more I'm like, there are no differences. I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is what is a catch and what isn't a catch. The difference is a 4th down decision, go for it or kick a field goal. The difference is it snowing or not? What are the differences between these teams? What's the difference between Seattle and LA? Tell me right now. I'll tell you what it is. Dude dropped a punt. What are the true differences organizationally on field? We're like, oh, this quarterback's better than this quarterback, or this defense is better than that defense. No, they're not. The difference is a dude dropped a punt. The difference is Sean Payton went for it. Those are the differences we're talking about at the highest level of the sport. So I tend to agree with you. These dominant teams, and there have been a number of them, whether it's been New England under Brady, Mahomes, Reed with the Chiefs. I mean, there have been some really good teams. And then there's also examples where the teams are very comparable to each other. What were we saying about the Chiefs last year before they made the playoffs? Like, their offense isn't very good. It was a little bit of smoke and mirrors. They were winning a lot of one-score games. And then all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl. It's not like they were some dominant team in 2024. And certainly they took a step back in 2025, even before the Patrick Mahomes injury. So I tend to agree with you. I'm not expecting next year all of a sudden the Chiefs to look like the Chiefs from 9 years ago and go 16-1 with the most explosive offense in football. I'm expecting a lot of good teams. Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Patriots, Broncos, they're all capable of maybe getting there.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Because I think the wider, field that we have, it's going to make the regular season more entertaining. It's going to make the playoffs better. As opposed to some of those years where it's like, oh yeah, we got 2 good teams, and then the rest of them, we're gonna sit here and piss and moan about how they don't even deserve to be a playoff team, or oh, I can't believe they get to host a playoff game, and pretty much the NFC South.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. All right, Miles Byrd on the other side, San Diego State standout redshirt junior guard as the Aztecs get ready for Colorado State tomorrow. Miles coming off a career game against UNLV. We'll hear from Miles Byrd coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Staples. The Aztecs are back home at Viejas Arena tomorrow night to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage will start at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7:30. In NFL news, Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did not get the required percentage of votes to become a first ballot Hall of Famer. In other NFL news and notes, the Bills promoted their offensive coordinator Joe Brady to the head coaching spot. He signed a 5-year deal today, and the Broncos fired their offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi after failing to make it to the Super Bowl. 2026 is here, and at Staples, deals mean business. Get that back to business energy with up to $100 off custom print orders on business cards, flyers, signs, and more. Shop everything you need to fuel the momentum in store and online. Staples, that was easy, ends January 31st.
All right, Brent's back page coming up in about 15 minutes or so. Brent just told you the Aztecs back in action tomorrow night at 7:30 from Viejas Arena. Another Mount West showdown. They all are this time of year. The Aztecs in first place in the league, 8-1, trying to get to 9-1 at the halfway point. And again, we had Miles Bird, the outstanding junior guard, redshirt junior guard, with us earlier. And we started the conversation by asking Miles about the bounce back from the disappointment Wednesday night. They went to Grand Canyon, they lost. In that game, Miles Bird was 2 of 10 overall from the field and was 0 for 6 from beyond the arc. They got back late at night, and he immediately turned on the film from that game, and I asked him about that and why he did it.
You know, it's funny. I think most games, you know, you just play with a lot of adrenaline. It's hard to get a lot of sleep after games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most times we usually stay wherever we played at in away games, fly out the next morning. But we were lucky enough to, you know, hop on a private plane and get back at a reasonable hour and sleep in our own beds. And, you know, I mean, I do a lot of film watching by myself with my coaches, you know, with my dad as well. And, you know, I was frustrated, obviously, with the loss, how we lost, how I played in our loss. So, you know, just reflecting for myself and, you know, for the team standpoint. So got on my couch and turned on my little direct TV stream app on my TV. And, you know, I just rewatched the game, the full game, just so I could see, you know, where I was getting my shots and, you know, what I could have done better to, you know, help the team, put the team in a better position to win.
And then, of course, you bounce back in this huge way on Saturday. We're going to get to that. When I talked to Reese Dixon Waters yesterday, and Miles Bird is with us right now, Aztecs redshirt junior guard coming off this huge game against UNLV. I mentioned to Reese, and you've heard me say this before, and others have said this, that, of course, Brian Dutch, your head coach, is so even keel, certainly publicly, where you can win a big game. He's not going to pretend like you won the national championship, and you can lose a big game, and he's not going to pretend as if the season is over. So when you're coming off this crazy game Wednesday night with all the adrenaline, all the energy in that building, the controversial finish, is it hard or is it easy to put that behind you as you got ready for Saturday?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said it was easy. You know, I mean, as a competitor, especially one at San Diego State, you know, where we don't like to lose, we don't lose often. It definitely stung. You know, I think, you know, just as a competitor like myself, it hurts more when you know you could have done more to, you know, help guide and win a game there. But, you know, I'm also older now. So I remember a game like Utah State at our place last year where, you know, there was some controversial calls towards the end of the game and we ended up losing that game. And, you know, mentally it took me a lot longer to get over that one. Just because I also thought I could play better in that one as well. But, you know, with a more mature mind and, you know, with our mindset this year, like, the Mountain West this year is so good that you can't really dwell on that game. If we were to dwell on that game, probably would have went into Vegas and not been able to play as good as we did. So I think just from that standpoint, you know, being able to flush it, understand, learn from it, obviously, but not hold as much weight to that loss. You know, I mean, GCU it's an amazing crowd over there in Phoenix. They got a really good team, really talented, really well coached. So I mean, it's not like we went in and lost to a team that, you know, we were supposed to beat by 20. So, I mean, obviously, in that fashion, you don't like losing that way, but it was a little bit easier to get over that one and realize that, you know, it's one game and now we just got to focus on not dropping 2 in a row.
You know, it's interesting you say that, and I want to get more specifically into Saturday. But no, okay, so you're on the heels of Wednesday and it doesn't go your way individually or collectively. And now you're coming off Saturday where you get the team win and you play really well individually. So where's your mindset coming off a game like Saturday as you head into Wednesday? Are you doing similar things? Are you rewatching that? Like, how do you approach Wednesday off Saturday?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we got back a lot better over time on Saturday because it was an earlier game. So, you know, I got back, you know, rested my body as much as I could. We had Sunday off, and, you know, Sunday morning I was on my couch, rewatched the game. And, you know, after rewatching every game, I feel like I try to do a good job of, you know, putting it in the blinders. Obviously, we got a really well-coached Colorado State team coming in tomorrow. And in the Mountain West, you know, if you look in the past or if you look in the future, the present is going to end up messing you up. And I think, you know, we're just trying to, as a team and, you know, me as a leader, trying to make sure we're all staying present in the moment and understanding the task at hand, which is tomorrow. So, I mean, honestly, I'm very happy with how I played, very happy with how I responded personally. But we got a really big week here for the Aztecs. So, you know, trying to just reshift our focus to what's important, and that's ahead.
It is a huge week. They're all big, as we say, right, this time of year. Colorado State at home, then at Utah State on Saturday. What is it like as a player? You've had these games before, whether it's in college. I was watching the Combine this summer. You had some huge offensive games as well. Just coming up as a young player. What is it like when you're having the type of offensive success that you had on Saturday where seemingly every shot that you put up goes in? I said the same thing I think you might have said post-game, which is like, what do you mean he missed a shot? I looked at the box score, 7 for 8. There was a ball that you had like poked away on your way up that didn't even look like a true shot attempt. So really the 7 shots that reached the rim all went in. But what is it like from when you're playing and you're having that type of confidence?
You know, I mean, it's tough, especially for a guy like me who, you know, when I feel like I'm feeling it, I'm confident in anything I shoot. You know, still like in that UNLV game, I mean, it was hovering around 10-point lead, 8-point lead. You know, they brought it to 6 at one point, get it to 12. And, you know, at that point, it's winning basketball. So it's not like, I mean, despite me rolling, I didn't want to go out there and just go out there and start shooting shots that, you know, wouldn't be good possessions for us either. So, I mean, just trying to find a balance. Obviously, you know, I was really confident in the moment. Every shot I shot, I felt like I was going to make. But, you know, we still got to play the right way and finish that game. And, you know, I'm glad that we were able to do that at such a high level.
The play of the game, whether it was intended or not, you know, UNLV had stolen back some of the momentum. I think you guys led by 11. They had a steal and maybe a dunk from Tyron Jones. And all of a sudden, the crowd's into it. It's a 7-point game. There's still 6, 7, 8 minutes left. That's how I recall it. And then it's a late shot clock situation, and the ball just ends up with you. And you're in front of the bench. You might be near Brian Dutcher, and you just hoist it up late in the shot clock. What are you thinking in that moment? And would you agree that was just from a momentum perspective that kind of changed the fortune of the rest of the game?
100. You know, I think especially any late shot clock shot for any team defending, you know, they were doing a good job that possession as well. I don't think we touched the paint not one time. So I mean, we were playing umbrella basketball. LZ kicked it to me on the high wing, about 7 seconds left, and you know, I thought I was just comfortable. You know, I thought he played a little too far back. I mean, obviously it's a deep shot. So, I mean, most defenders probably are not trying to go up and guard that close. But, you know, I was confident at that point. I was 4 for 3 already. And, you know, I think that's like the conversations I'm having with coaches. And like, they trust me shooting those shots. I mean, they see me make those shots all the time. But, you know, taking the right ones and, you know, finding the groove before you start shooting those tough ones. And, you know, I was able to start the game with a lot of step-in threes, going 4 for 4. So, at that point, you know, I'm already rolling, and I was confident taking that shot, and, you know, I'm just happy it went in.
Huge moment. And again, Milesburg, 23 points. One of the, you look at the game within the game, it was a true unicorn of a game, which you've said a lot before about some of your games at San Diego State. You compile a line score or like in the box score, what you're posting is rarely done in college basketball or at San Diego State. Miles Bird with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. I want to ask you about Colorado State, but first I want to ask about your relationship and just watching Reese Dixon Waters. You play so often together. You know, you're both playing at this point like 30 plus minutes a game. You've been teammates for 3 years, although he didn't play last year because of his injury. What's it like playing alongside Reese right now at this point in his career? He goes over 1,000 career points, but what's it been like for you this year as you guys play together as much as you have?
Yeah, no, I think I love sharing the court with Reese. You know, I think Reese takes a lot of pressure off of me with his high shot making. You know, where I've never really been the guy that's like I'm going to score 20 points a night.
Mm-hmm.
But, Reese can consistently give you a 15, and that takes a lot of pressure off of everybody else on the team. Relationship-wise on the court, we've gone into a great friendship the past 3 years. Obviously I played spot minutes behind him and guys like Micah Parrish and stuff my sophomore year, or I should say my freshman year. I think being able to just be around Reese every single day and, us become more and more friends, it's easier to play together. And I'm just really happy to share the court with them. I told guys a story about when I decided I was going to be coming back to San Diego State on May 28th or whatever the date was, that Reese was the first person I called before, my agent, my family, the coaching staff. I called Reese and let him know that I'm coming back just because I knew how excited we were last year to, have the opportunity to be the 2 and the 3 on the court together at times. And, I'm just happy that it was able to work out this year to where, we're even more mature together now. We've been through a lot more. And, I think we just complement each other so well when we play together.
One more before I ask you about CSU tomorrow night. I just thought about this Wednesday. You're on the floor at Grand Canyon, and 3 of your former teammates from a team that played in the national championship game are there. You have a good rope, your assistant coach, AG, who you played with. You have Adam Seiko, who's in like the first row. Nathan Mensah is there as well.
Yeah.
What is that like for you? I mean, here you are in the midst of your college career. It wasn't that long ago, but then again, it was a long time ago. What was that experience like?
Yeah, when you do something so special with a group of guys, it's so hard for you not to stay close with them type of guys. So, Nate, I did a lot of talking to Nate this summer while I was going through the process. He called me multiple times just to give me advice. That team group chat from that year is still very active, during the holidays and stuff. You grow such a tight relationship with everybody when you guys are doing all that traveling and march together. And it's almost like you guys are together for a month straight. So, you build a great relationship with them, and, winning doesn't hurt that as well. I think I got a lot of love for everybody that was on that team, and I still do a great job of conversating with everybody from that team. I'm in a very active group chat with guys like Micah Parrish, Elijah Saunders, Keyshawn Johnson, Darian Trammell, Lamont Butler. I've done a great job of keeping in contact with them, and, especially those guys like Seiko and AG and Nate. I was really close and friends with guys like Lamont, guys a little bit closer to my age. But those 5th years and 6th years from that year, they were like my big brothers. So, they did a lot of guiding me during that year, tough year of me sitting out and, going through the grind of redshirting. Those are relationships that are going to be there forever. And, I love going to Phoenix because, Adam Seiko is going to be there every time. Nate's obviously trying to figure out what he's doing next. So he's been in San Diego as well. So I've been able to chat with Nate a little bit more this week as well. And even seeing guys like Jamal Franklin there, who's still very active in the program, still always around. I got great relationships with a lot of the alumni. So, it's always great to have them in the stands, have them cheering, but it's even better to, being able to get on the phone with them after a rough one, or like Jamal Franklin texted me right after the game and told me to drop it and move on to the next one. So, I've been an Aztec for 4 years. I'm an Aztec for life, and those relationships will always be there.
Absolutely love to hear it. All right, before you go, tell us about Colorado State. One of the more efficient offenses in the country. They've had some ups and downs. They've dealt with injuries, but they've gotten healthy. What type of opportunity and challenge are you expecting tomorrow night?
They're super well coached. I was heavily recruited by Colorado State coming out of high school. Ali Farokhmash, their head coach, he was doing the majority of the recruiting, so I got a great relationship with Coach Ali over there. So they're super well coached. They do a great job developing guys over there. But offensively, I think they have one of the better offenses in the league where, it's a lot of back cutting. You got to stay under your man, be solid, don't try to make home run plays. We just got to make sure that we pressure the quarterback. Don't let anything be easy for them. Like I would say every single game, I'm confident in us, hoping we go and pull it out, play the best of our abilities. But, it's a Mountain West Conference game, so it's going to be a tough one no matter what. Just hope that Viejas is sold out. We haven't been in Viejas since I think New Mexico. So, just trying to make sure that we're super active and put on a show for the fans.
Stu, looking forward to it tomorrow night. San Diego State and Colorado State at Viejas Arena. All right, that game is at 7:30. We'll have pregame coverage beginning at 6:30. Much more on that tomorrow. I think John Wilner will join us tomorrow. Bay Area Mercury News. More on the Pac-12 and what's happening right now behind the scenes with the Pac-12 as they have an eye on next season. I'll try to get a bracketologist on the show tomorrow as well. We'll take a time out. Brent's back. Paige is on the other side. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, the Aztecs back at Viejas tomorrow night. They'll take on Colorado State. Pre-game coverage at 6:30. I'll have the tip for you just after 7:30, and you're home for the Aztecs right here. San Diego Sports 760. I'll tell you what, it's turned into a really good college basketball early evening. We've got on Peacock right now, Brent has it pulled up, back and forth game between two top 5 teams. Number 3, Michigan, 18-1, hosting 20-0, and number 5, Nebraska. You heard me right, Nebraska. In what world is Indiana winning football national championships and is Nebraska undefeated? That's the world we live in right now. But this is a 3-point game in Ann Arbor. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What is that again?
It's Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. We were in a Twilight Zone, but a lot of good college basketball going on right now. I'll be watching some Mountain West games tonight. Some good ones in the Mountain West. And again, we've got Aztec basketball for you tomorrow. But right now, let's get to this.
You eat fish and stuff, right?
I eat fish and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would be into Lobster Fest at Red Lobster?
Yeah, I could be convinced. Yeah, tell me what it entails, like cost and what we get.
Well, it's the usual. It's just they have a lot of like new lobster, like oriented like dishes and stuff. This year they've got a couple new dishes. You can get a baked lobster pasta au gratin.
Okay.
And you can get a crispy dragon teriyaki lobster. And they're also adding, because I guess this is trending at like seafood restaurants this year, is they're doing a Lobster Fest boil. So you'll get like a shrimp and corn and the whole thing, like when you get like a boil or something.
How much is this?
Does not say.
Doesn't say?
No.
Wait, this is Red Lobster?
Yes.
It's still around?
Yeah.
I thought it was bankrupt or something.
Nah, Flavor Flav saved it, man. Where have you been?
Okay, so there's how many are around? Not too many.
There's one over by Grossmont Center.
Okay, there's one.
I love Red Lobster.
So I like the biscuit or whatever.
Oh yeah, the Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Thing's awesome.
Those things are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Red Lobster. Same with like Olive Garden.
So Lobster Fest.
Yes.
Now I want to know how much it costs.
My guess is probably around $20. Sometimes they'll do like all you can eat stuff too, but for lobster, $20 is pretty good. And then they got a couple other like there's a dockside sipper, and they got a couple other a lobstar. Get it?
I get it.
Margarita, which doesn't contain anything fishy. It's just a margarita with Hennessy and some other stuff in it, and it comes with a collectible Red Lobster claw shaker, which I don't know what that is because they didn't have a picture on it. So I assume it's just some sort of like a drink shaker. It's just going to look like a lobster claw. So if you like lobster, get ready for Lobster Fest. I'm more of a, when they do the all you can eat shrimp thing,
right?
I'm more of that because I'll go there and sit there for an hour and just eat shrimp. So
according to AI, by the way, this starts at $43.99. But that's addition to Chin's offering a Lobster Fest duo. So maybe that's for two.
Oh, yeah, that's for two.
Okay. So maybe it's more in that 20, 25 range.
Because where was the duo?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Because the duo was I can't find it now because there's like 80 paragraphs in this article. But the duo was for like a date night thing.
That makes sense. That's not
because you got like two. What was it? Because you each got like two lobster tails, and they were like wrapped in scallops and a bunch of other stuff. So you pretty much
not bad.
Like a date
for two.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. What else do we got?
Are you a fan of Crocs?
My son is.
Not the animal.
Son is always
hideous shoes.
Yeah, I don't think they're the most attractive things in the world, but it's easy for kids. You can just slide them on. I've never worn them once in my life.
That's an understatement. I haven't either, and I refuse to because I think they're like the ugliest thing ever. For us, it was like something that you'd wear like if you're going to a water park or something. Like, there's your water, sandals or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
But Crocs, not being happy with just being ugly on their own, they've done a partnership with Lego.
Oh, I think I saw these, dude. They look like Lego bricks.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So just when you thought Crocs couldn't get any uglier, now they look like Lego bricks.
I need to see,
complete with studs and everything else.
Are they available now?
Yes. For the low price of $199.99.
I think normal Crocs are like 20. I thought you get them for like $30.
Yeah, they're cheap.
$200. Who's going to wear those?
Rich people with nothing else to do. Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, I can't stand Crocs. I always get in arguments with my friends because like, oh, they're so comfortable. It's just like, you do realize that when people that wore UGG boots used to tell us that 10 years ago, we laughed at them and said, I don't care how comfortable they are. They look stupid.
Right.
And now here you are with even dumber looking footwear than UGGs. And you're like, oh no, but they're so comfortable.
I'm looking at these right now, and they are ridiculous looking.
Oh yeah, they're awful,
insane.
And like I said, you have to try really hard to ugly up Crocs more than they already are.
They've done it.
Yes, they have. And then finally, a follow up to yesterday's story that we did on the back page about MLB The Show 26 not having a quote new cover athlete. You nailed it. You said yesterday
they have an old cover athlete.
It sounded like it was just semantics to where they're purposely saying no new athlete.
Right.
They announced the old new athlete today, and it was Aaron Judge.
So Aaron Judge is on the cover of MLB The Show.
Yes. First time he's been on the cover since MLB The Show 18. So it's been about 8 or 9 years because everything's always about a year off.
And you mentioned to me that this year's game will include the WBC, like you can play in the WBC with different nations.
Yeah, because the ad that they had, because they had a thing of like a reveal of Judge seeing himself on the cover, and on the cover they call him Captain America in the thing because apparently he must be the team captain for Team America. But they also mentioned, his Fresno State because they had his Fresno State jersey on the cover there. So I kind of wonder if they're going to have some loose form of like college baseball in there, kind of like how
that'd be interesting.
Madden for certain modes, they'll let you jump into like a college thing until you get drafted. So maybe they'll work some form of college, even if it's just a little bit in there. So that might be kind of cool. But yeah, so MLB The Show is going to have a cover athlete. It's just not a new cover athlete. It's a recycled one.
So they weren't lying. They were not lying.
No, they weren't lying.
The same cover athlete. All right. We are back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Again, John Wilner, Bay Area News Group, will be on the show tomorrow. I'm going to work to get a bracketologist on the show tomorrow as well. So get you ready for San Diego State and Colorado State. Another Mountain West showdown at Viejas Arena at 7:30 with pregame coverage at 6:30. But we'll get you going beginning at 2 p.m. If you missed anything today, make sure to check out sportsSD.com or the iHeartRadio app or iTunes or TuneIn Radio or Spotify. For Sammy Long, who was here earlier, and for Brent Sperry, I'm John Schaefer, and you've been listening to San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.